Good evening. I'd like to call to order this is our public hearing on the FY26 budget. It's now 5 p.m. This is our second budget presentation in addition to the budget hearing that we also held in January. Before turning this over to Mr. Libby, I would like to thank our superintendent, Mrs. Terry O'Regan, and also our business manager, Mr. Libby, for a fantastic presentation to our FinCom meeting last night on our budget. So I think it was great, and it was nice to see all of my colleagues. We were all there last night in support of that budget. So I would like to now say, Mr. Libby, the floor is yours, and here we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And yeah, it was great to see our committee members in attendance last night at the Finance Committee meeting. We presented our budget presentation for the, third time publicly, and this will be the fourth time tonight. So hopefully folks aren't surprised with anything that happens in our district from a fiscal perspective. We always start with our district strategy and theory of action, which we developed with the school committee and our administrative team. We kind of use these as pillars to make decisions when it comes to allocating resources across the district. Whenever decisions come down to this or that, we turn to these for direction. So the school department's made up of 4 major parts, 3 of which are managed by the schools. Salary, operating, capital outlay are the main parts that we manage, and 1 section of our budget, fixed costs, is managed and shared with the town. Fixed costs include things like health insurance, building insurance, unemployment, retirement costs, things of that nature that we share with our fellow departments at the town. When we talk about our budget over these presentations, we're mainly focused on salary, operating, and capital outlay, although we have taken some steps to reduce some of our fixed costs over the next couple years, which will have an impact on improving our salary and operating areas. And you'll see that in a moment, the way we've packaged the presentation, a little bit different than the last 2 times we've presented this with the school committee. So the school budget process is very fluid, reflects the plan of the district at that moment in time. Our needs are constantly changing, our resources are constantly changing, and our budget will change to reflect these changes between now and final approval at the town meeting in May. The school budget's part of the overall town budget for the town of Tewksbury. What happens is our school committee recommends approval to the town manager and the finance committee. The finance committee then recommends approval of the town budget to town meeting in May each year. And when the town meeting approves the budget, that is when funds actually get approved for the school department. So the final actual approval of funds for a school and all departments rests with residents who attend town meeting. It's important that people who want to have a say in their local government attend town meetings. So where does our school funding come from? We start with a baseline budget of what we had the previous year, and then we've developed a 60-40 split of estimated new revenues for the upcoming year. Where did we get the 60-40 split? It's historically been the way expenses have gone in town as part of the overall town budget. Just went back a couple of years here to FY24 and FY25. The total school budget as part of the town budget was 59.92, then 60.73. generally hovers right around that mark. So the 60-40 split has been historically, we found that has worked pretty well for a way to allocate new resources as well. We've included some student data here, just for reference for folks. We went back to 23-24, included the student population by grade and school, where we are this year, 24-25, with respect to student population in school and grade, and then rolled folks forward, rolled our students ahead 1 year with a few assumptions, assumes all students advance 1 grade, same enrollment at preschool, which we don't know what we're going to get in preschool in any given year, and using census figures. And now we've got some new figures that we've included here in pre-registration to estimate kindergarten enrollment. This was a bit of a change since last time we met as well. Our numbers for kindergarten appear as if they could be higher than we were initially expecting. Last time we were around 140 at the Dewing and 110 at Heathbrook, 250 total. After we met with our registrar yesterday, these are the numbers she has as from the census and folks we have that have come in for pre-registration. So this is sort of the high, I think it's the high end of where we could go, but we wanted to show that, and it's just one of those areas that we're going to keep a close eye on a weekly basis to make sure we're in good standing with our kindergarten class size as we get closer to the Maytown meeting. And that's just one of those areas of change that I spoke of earlier that we're constantly watching to make sure we have our needs met when we present our budget at town meeting. So areas of focus, personnel-wise, we are always seeking opportunities to maximize the use of staff based on current student population enrollment trends. We're trying to transform as much as we can the use of contracted services to employees for many areas of special needs. One area was the use of contracted services for education support personnel or classroom aides was a big one that we talked about during negotiations that the union was interested in seeing us pursue. And our administration had been talking about that change as well for quite some time. So it's something that I think both sides want to see get done. And we're kind of dipping our toe in the water of that transition over the next few years. And there's other areas of special ed needs that we contract when we can't find an employee, psychological services, some behavioral. If we can't meet the needs of our students with employees, we sometimes have to contract those services. We want to try to get away from that as much as possible and be able to handle our student needs with our employees. We're trying to increase the balancing of special ed programming between our PK1 schools. We've moved a few programs from the Dewing to the Heathbrook in the past couple of years, and that move will continue next year as well, and begin to implement some of the recommendations of the special education audit. We had a third-party special ed audit conducted over the first few months of this year, and we'll be trying to implement some of those recommendations as soon as feasibly possible. From an operational standpoint, we're always searching for saving opportunities in transportation, utilities, technology, supplies, and maintenance, trying to keep ahead of rising trends in those areas. technology, our communications, looking to improve and consolidate systems wherever possible. Continue our smart board to ClearTouch conversion. We still have some old smart boards around the district. We're trying to eliminate and move on to the newer technology there, and make sure we provide inventory for our one-to-one device program at our higher grade levels. From a building improvement standpoint, we're forced this year in FY25 to move most of our capital outlay budget into our salary and operating areas to meet operational needs. And we're going to move a lot of that capital outlay in FY26 as well into our operating budget, which means future capital projects will require funding via town meeting articles through kind of a different process, different way to fund those articles. We don't want to stop working on our buildings. We're just going to have to fund them a little differently, plan a little more proactively through town meeting to get those funds ahead of time when we want to do a major project on a school. Our building and ground systems, we're always trying to keep ahead of HVAC, electrical, plumbing, security, intercom systems, phones, and maybe age-appropriate playground at the Heathbrook School, which is moved into the playground, the preschool area, and the playground area there is not specific to preschool age students. The process we undertake here starts with our salary, because that's 70% of our budget. We start with our current payroll roster, and we advance everyone there, any steps, lanes, and longevity per contracts that we know we're going to see in the upcoming year. The results of that you can see in this chart here, what the COLA was, the percentage increase in the contract, any steps that folks are entitled to, longevity increases when folks hit those thresholds where they get a longevity change. It totaled almost $2 million in just those changes without any increase or decrease to staff. Then we adjust for retirements, resignations. We align employees paid from grants and revolving accounts appropriately, so that $1.9 million isn't all from our budget. Some of those folks are paid from grants and revolving accounts, so that comes out of that 1.9 increase. We go through all of our part-time, overtime, sort of extra duty accounts and look at those versus actuals, see if we have any opportunities for savings, or if we're short in any of those areas where we need to maybe bump up a budget in some of those spots. And then we review with building principals and department heads. That's a common theme you'll see throughout this process. We're reviewing anything that we think is going to affect an operation. We want to go over it with the folks who are closest to it to see how it's going to impact the day-to-day operation of their department before we make any major changes to our budget or our operation. In the operating area, which is typically about 28% of our budget, we adjust for any known contractual increases. We sometimes have those in transportation or utilities. We have service contracts in lots of different areas, in maintenance. Sometimes we have therapeutic service contracts, as I mentioned before, in the areas of special ed. But all areas of the district, we have service contracts. We go through those and look for opportunities to either make changes or look for any areas where we need some increases. And in our tuition, students that attend out-of-district schools. The Operational Services Division in Massachusetts recommended a 3.67 tuition increase for fiscal '26. That's the State Department that sets the tuition rates for out-of-district tuition. So any students we have going to out-of-district schools, we baked in that 3.67% increase across the board. The results of those changes are kind of shown below versus FY25. The highlighted areas in red to speak about a little bit, the maintenance contracts, although shows a slight decrease, we did add $268,000 via transfers in FY25, so it's a little bit deceiving that the result came down a little bit. When we reviewed these with our maintenance folks, we did think we could bring a few of those contracts down, but we did add quite a bit during this fiscal year. And special ed contracted, the reduction to our contracted aides and trying to move those folks into employee aides. So there's a bit of an offset there as well, even though it shows a decrease in the contracted services area. And note in tuition, we're increasing $700,000 in our budget, but we did increase our circuit breaker spending in FY25 by close to $2 million. A circuit breaker is a revolving account we can use to spend on special ed expenses, and we dipped into that circuit breaker account quite a bit this year to meet the needs that we're seeing increase across our district. Next step in our process is we meet with our town manager. We establish the amount available from the town in projected new revenues, and we share what we think we're going to need, kind of get to a happy place in the middle, hopefully. And again, back to reviewing with building principals and department heads. Continuing with our process, we're looking for other revenue sources, grants and revolving accounts. We have to be careful here to make sure it's an appropriate need or use for a revenue source. They have to be aligned with the intent of the revenue, whether it's a grant or a revolving account. We want to make sure if the expense is going to be recurring, that the revenue is going to be recurring. If it's a one-time expense, we can pair it up with a one-time revenue, or is it going to be increasing? Is it going to be decreasing? We want to take all that into account before we move forward with funding something with an alternative revenue source. And again, review with building principals and department heads to make sure we're all on the same page. When that process is all completed, we have a working document with detailed line item account level changes to our budget. This is just a couple pages that show a couple of our cost centers that we have on our website as well. Cost centers, we have 14 of them in our district. Showing here is a school or information systems and transportation. So typically our cost centers are either school buildings or major departments in our central district area. This is sort of a summary of where those 14 areas are. Schools are first, and then we have administration, information systems, transportation, athletics, special education, building and grounds, and system-wide sort of things that kind of don't fit into one specific school but are educational in nature. So when it was all said and done, we came to a 4.14% increase requested. I think the last time we were here, we were at like a 3.8, I believe. In talking with our town accountant and town manager about how to handle the health insurance offset, I was showing it sort of outside of our expenses down on this page. They wanted to just take it out of our fixed costs and put it into our operating costs, our salary and operating, just from an accounting perspective and kind of a packaging perspective. So we're all on the same page with how he's presenting our budget as part of his budget. And so it looks a little bit different, but the numbers are essentially the same as they were before. The last presentation, I showed a negative 397,000 offset on health insurance, which brought this change number down quite a bit. But we're going to just show it this way moving forward and show the decrease just taken in the fixed costs, which you'll see as we move along. And at the end of the day, the grand total school budget of 78,284.88 is the number that is the same number that was showing on the previous presentations, and the 3.63% overall increase is also the same when you include fixed costs and debt. So when you break down our budget into salary, operating, and capital outlay, salary is this year it's 71.1% of the school budget, and within within the 71.1%, most of that is in the teacher area, 66.5, as you would expect. That's most of our employees, and most of the money is tied up in the teaching staff, as it should be. Highlighted here, aids, educational support, that change from contracted to employee. They last year were, I believe it was around 6% of our salary budget, up to 7.1% this year. The headcount is also increased from where they were last year. I believe when we were in negotiations, we were working with around 70. So they're up to about 81 heading into next year. In the operating area, this year it's 28.75% of our budget. And again, that special ed services number, that includes mainly a reduction in our one-to-one aides and the conversion of those folks over to the employee side. Also highlighted the tuition line here that in FY25 was around 30% of our operating budget, expected to grow to 34% of the operating budget in FY26, showing those increasing needs across the district. Capital outlay, just 0.42% of the school budget, reduced significantly from the historical amount we carried of almost 800,000. We want to try to keep the 250 in that account, which has historically been reserved for textbook or mainly device replacement or upgrades in that account. And as I said, future capital projects, we're not abandoning those. We just want to fund them differently via town meeting warrant articles and use available resources that we have in stabilization. We keep our capital projects list. This list is not prioritized. We just started out by school and added a few items at the bottom that came in sort of late in the game for the center school and system-wide. We're going to try to get this system-wide E-rate project funded at this May's town meeting, as our E-rate cycle is ending next year. And that E-rate program provides basically a cost match on technology projects. So the wireless access upgrade at all the schools except the center school has brand new technology that's fine. It doesn't need to be upgraded, but the other schools, wireless access points in our classrooms are near end of life and need to be upgraded. That's the main part of the technology E-rate project. There's a little bit of work on our firewalls and some cabling, but the main gist of it is the access points that we want to get funded at the May town meeting to take advantage of that E-rate program. These are some of the capital projects we've completed from 22 to 25. The focus in recent years has been sort of the new school, getting punch list items done there, and the capital money hasn't been, or grant money hasn't been available as it was in the past to get as many projects done as we have seen in previous years, but we're still getting some projects done in our schools that are keeping the places looking fine. We also manage 49 separate grant and revolving accounts that we have active in the school department. All have a specific purpose and must be used appropriately. They must be related to the purpose of the grant or revolving type fund. If we collect fees for a certain thing, we can't spend it on something completely unrelated. And we fund approximately 38 positions, either partially or fully, through grants and revolving accounts. This is our grant funding that's available this year in FY25. We don't know what our grant funding will be in FY26. Most of the grants are applied for sort of right up until and before the school year starts. We do know there are entitlement grants, which are shown in blue here, that we're pretty well guaranteed to get, and they generally stay in the same vicinity money-wise year over year. The only thing we're cautious of right now is our Title I grant. We did receive a warning that we are in danger of losing $170,000 of that grant. So we're right now planning for that reduction. We did get that same warning last year, and we did not see the reduction. So we're hopeful that that's the case this year. We won't know until, I think it was mid-August this year, we found out we were fully funded in Title I. But we'll, for now, we're acting as if the reduction will be real, and we'll hopefully be pleasantly surprised over the summer when those final funding numbers come out for the Title I grants. This is our sort of a brief summary of the revolving accounts with our sort of past history of what our cash balances were, carrying forward from year to year. And I got a slide on a couple of the larger ones here, food services and circuit breaker. We do have a couple of new revolving accounts we opened this year, elementary clubs, which we started collecting for this year as the activity grew in some of those areas. And we got some funding as an emergency assistance shelter town for some school-age students that were in our shelters in town as an emergency assistance community. We're able to spend that on student-related expenses as the committee sees fit, with no appropriation needed from the town. So the circuit breaker program is a reimbursement program for cost of high-cost special needs students. Basically, we spend the money in year one. We get a portion of it back in year two. Here's a 5-year history of, again, the carry forward balance we had for the past several years and what our net claim was. So you can see the net claim has been increasing, and from 23 claim into 24 claim was quite a jump. It's kind of the ultimate good news, bad news fund. When you're getting a lot of money back in a year, it means you spent a lot of money the year before. So those costs did rise for us quite a bit in fiscal 24, but our allocation did go up quite a bit in FY25. Normally it's a 75% across the board reimbursement, which would have garnered us $4.6 million this year back in circuit breaker money. The state funded the circuit breaker program, the transportation component, at 44%. So we were only allotted $4.1 million back that we're getting back this year during FY25. So it was a little bit of a hit that we weren't anticipating, that we found out about in September. So our FY25 history and 26 projections are on this side of the slide. We did an estimate of what we think we're going to be getting back next year if the circuit breaker's funded the way it was this year. 75% on educational expenses, 44% on transportation, and it's a little over $6 million we should be getting back on our net claim for circuit breaker for FY26. Again, a significant increase, but it's because we're spending a lot on some high tuition expenses and high transportation costs as well. Our food services account continues to have a robust balance due to increased participation with the universal free breakfast and lunch programs continuing. They're seeing really great participation across all schools. This is their cash balances that they've been carrying forward from the past several years. You can see that balance has grown quite a bit. We were able to complete some pretty significant projects this summer in some kitchen areas, and we're able to fund their employee health insurance. There's a change we made this year during FY25 to have some savings in our fixed cost area that has allowed us to move some of our available resources into our salary and operating accounts. So when the budget's fully expanded, this is what it will look like at town meeting, with our health insurance, retirement, Medicaid, unemployment, all shown here as separate line items. And I footnoted here the health insurance with the offset of $397,585, which is what we estimate will be the savings in our health insurance to our budget by funding those federally funded programs, funding their own employees. So when you put all those steps taken together to offset the rise in the cost of servicing the influx of these high-cost student needs, the town contributed above the 60%, the new projected revenues. When we met with the town manager initially, the 60% number was $1.2 million increase. He got us to 1.9, which is where we were when we were kind of going back and forth with him initially. So that's 684,275 was kind of above and beyond the typical 60% we get. The health insurance savings of 397, moving our capital outlay budget garnered us 539, and we're projecting to spend more in circuit breaker than we did in FY25 by 620,000. It's a total of 2.2 million that we're kind of able to put together to help us offset some of those increased costs that we're seeing in our operation. Additional steps that we're taking without a direct immediate financial impact, we're reorganizing and strengthening our in-district programming. You're going to see a presentation tonight on preschool. That's we hope the seeds to starting that program moving forward. We think we start with the younger ages and grow these programs as the students do. And improving communications regarding non-special ed interventions that are available to students. That was a recommendation from the special education audit that there's some steps that can be taken before we move right into a special ed placement that may keep some of our students working successfully in a regular ed environment. This was an exercise we undertook just to see how our resources aligned with our student populations. We took our student population as a percentage of the total at each school and our instructional dollars spent as a percentage of the total as well. Kind of lined those up on a grid. We were kind of looking to see if we would see any anomalies where we're spending huge amounts in areas where we don't have a ton of students. The alignment wasn't really nothing too surprising here. High school programs tend to cost more to run because of the electives that we need to run to keep those programs alive. There's other costs for extracurriculars and athletics that get associated with the high school that we don't incur those at other schools. You see the center school here, more students than they have expenses. Kind of the theory of big numbers kind of working there in our favor. We have whole student populations put together where we are able to see sort of a economy of numbers where we didn't, those schools were separated before, and putting those students together, we're able to schedule the building as efficiently as possible. So I think that kind of lends itself to that, those savings there. So next steps, we'll continue our discussions with building principals, department leaders, and elected officials, and react and refine to our ever-changing needs. I think you saw during the presentation, we've had several already in our resources and our needs. Those changes may result in some movement within our budget, represented here by these arrows, but we think this bottom line, 78, 280, 488, should be sufficient for FY26. So detailed account level reports are available at the school department website on the business office page. We have the summary by our cost centers, as well as detail information for each cost center on our website, and a report that groups all of our expenses by function code. The Department of Ed creates a function code that is standardized across the state, and then we've included the definition of what goes into those functions, and that's also available on the website, which was updated today from yesterday Finance Committee and this presentation today. And that brings us to the end. Happy to answer any questions, comments.
Thank you, and feel free to join us.
Thanks.
Anybody want to go first?
I can go first. This presentation gets more thrilling every time we see it, so thank you. A couple questions. So with the circuit breaker, the state funded only 44% this year for transportation. Did you account for that in the budget next year, that we would only get 44% back?
I projected it at 44% for transportation again. We're not really sure
Right.
how it'll be funded. What we were told had happened was the amount of claims that came in exceeded the state's budget, so they left the educational expenses alone and took the cut in the transportation reimbursement.
Okay, so we don't really know if there's risk to that 44% or even the 75% until we get it back, right? Okay.
Correct.
So that's a risk there. And then a quick question, substitutes, are those accounted for in the PTOT hourly line? Where are the substitutes accounted for?
Each school has a substitute daily line,
Okay,
and yeah, they would be in the part-time,
okay, all right, that's what I figured.
part-time hourly.
Yeah, the 400
'cause it-
hours,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, and then the last question, I touched upon this last time, and they actually touched upon it last night. It makes me very nervous that we're cutting so much from capital, which I'm assuming it does the same for you.
Yes.
So I think to understand that list of capital projects that we have upcoming, what are what are going to be the ones that are high priority that are just going to have to get done and we're going to have to figure out how to fund versus the ones that can wait?
I have a meeting at 9 o'clock with John Marchand
Okay.
tomorrow morning
Okay, good. Thank
to
you.
do that work.
And then just a comment, because I heard it last night, where, you know, I know that people are tired of putting money into the Heathbrook and the Dewing. However, those schools are going to be around for 7 to 10 years. We have to expect that we need to at least maintain those buildings, and there will, Heathbrook was a perfect example of the last couple of years that there was something unexpected that happened and we had to go pay for that. We have to maintain those buildings for the safety and the health of the students that are in them and that will be in them for the next 7 to 10 years. So I don't want people to be surprised that there's going to be money or requirements that come up in our budget for those schools, and it is what it is until we can come up with a better solution, but.
Right.
I think it's important to note, and by the way, you asked exactly the same question the chairman of the Finance Committee asked. What would be our prioritized list, barring a crisis, you know, or
Right.
an unforeseen event? But I think it's important to note and actually recognize our maintenance team, because the regular maintenance is also very, very important. You know, whether it's the painting or the fixing of pipes and things like that, that they can do, that save the district money,
Yeah.
you know, other than things that they can't tend to, a major, you know, break of some sort. They're upkeeping the school regularly to make sure that the water's flowing and things are running.
Yep, yep,
Yeah.
okay. That was it. Thank you.
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, actually, thank you, Mr. Libby, for the presentation. I'll just go back to one thing that my colleague said, and I know, as you pointed out, the FinCom actually brought it up last night, but I guess, and I know you're working on a priority list with regards to capital. I guess my sort of taking it a step further thought is, I understand that some of that could be funded maybe through grants, maybe through other alternative avenues at some point when the need arises. I guess just to kind of, for the five of us, we can help advocate when it comes time for a town meeting vote, in the sense of, I think it would be helpful for all of us to understand, like, what is the max capacity and the max risk that we could be looking at from a stabilization fund warrant article type thing over the next 3 years. Again, knowing that some of that could be funded alternatively, I do think that's important, especially when residents, as my colleague Ms. Anderson brought up, especially when people are looking at the doing in the Heathbrook, but they're not seeing the other side of it, that we still have to continue to maintain those buildings. And then we're going to go back. I mean, we saw ultimately it got voted in with regards to the Heathbrook last year, but there was some opposition towards that. And so I think from our perspective, we can help be advocates and resources to to residents in town with regards to that. So
Yep.
I think kind of understanding that risk in terms of dollars, because if we're only going to put $250 in the budget for the next 3 years each year, well, and we're looking at potentially again, I don't know what it could be, but it'd be helpful to understand that.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, though. Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, I'll
Mr.
jump on the bandwagon of the capital. Yeah, so I'm in agreement. It would just be good to see the priorities, and also what are we looking at for costs of some of these things? I know there are variables, so what are we talking for some of these line items? So
Yeah.
it'd be good to know that too. Because maybe something can be affordable and we can get that looked at. So
Yep.
yeah, but otherwise I appreciate you doing this 2 nights in a row, and so
Yep. That's
yeah.
again, on the agenda
Yeah.
as our homework was the prioritizing and cost estimating on that list. So we'll get that updated and put that on the website and get it sent out to you folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
So I have it's on the grant funding, and I know I asked it probably back in January, I think. It was for the 2024 funds that are out there, and what is still showing as a balance. I just want to reiterate that those funds aren't being wasted. They're going to get used. It only shows a certain amount encumbered, but specifically in terms of the support for the educational support and special education. I think there's like 50,000 in that
Okay.
remaining. I know you said that we have until 9/30, I think you said, 2025?
Yeah.
To use those. So just, I know that came up from a few parents that I spoke with, and I just wanted to make sure that is something that we don't leave on the table. It's a significant amount of money. $50,000 is a lot.
We're using it all.
That's all. Yeah.
Okay, and my only comments, again, I mean, I think it's just important for I think the residents and the community to know that when they do see our budget, to just be aware that we are making these decisions this year that are really hard decisions to pull back that capital outlay money. And we can't say it enough that this is just a temporary decision. I think that we're all in agreement is necessary for the cost reallocation, I'll call it, for just this year. And I'm hoping that we can reconsider next year to putting that money back in, because I think, the district has done such a nice job in maintaining the buildings. I really hate to have to go to town meeting to explain, kind of some of these decisions that you've had to make in terms of even upgrading windows and the things that you've done that have made such a big impact. And some of them have just been really small decisions. So I just want to say that out loud again. And then another thing too, I think that you've done such a nice job at is really going to each, not just the principals and the administrators of each building, but the department heads. I think from the outside, I don't think people realize just how granular you've gotten in the district at looking at this budget and getting really down to the nitty-gritty and looking at cost savings. And you've not just looked at it kind of, at an umbrella level, but you've asked each administrator and each department person to kind of say, where can you cut and where can you cost save? So thank you for doing that. And I know it's been hard on people because I've heard it, from lots of people in the district that, it's hurt everybody a little bit. So that's been hard. So thanks for.
Every cost-saving meeting we went to, they spent more money than we.
So, I know.
Yeah, I think you really have looked at this from a very, with a very critical lens. So thank you for doing that
We
work.
do say no, though.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah, and
We
you
have
brought that back
held
to
the
us.
line.
And yeah.
I
so
know, it's
thank
been
you.
hard, it's been hard.
And then another thing, too, that is in this packet, but I don't think you've said it out loud enough, too, is you've had discussions on reorganizing and strengthening in-district programming, improving communications regarding non-special ed interventions that are available to students. And I think people need to hear that, too, is how much you're looking at helping students that need services that are not necessarily identified as special ed students that need, that support. too.
It's our, one of our most important goals, goal number 2. In fact, this Friday's entire professional development is on supporting our teachers to do just that. So,
Yeah. So maybe at some point,
real.
once we kind of get through a little bit of the budget stuff, I'd love to hear a little bit more about that as kind of the year we come to an end, because I think that ties in a lot of the special ed audit that we heard of. But I did like seeing that in here, so I wanted to highlight that. So that's just stuff I wanted to pluck out of the packet and say thank you. So that's it for all the little pieces. Anything else for you? Okay, so we could take a motion.
A motion to adjourn the public budget hearing.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so 5:52, we adjourn. And then I will now open our, well, I guess we could wait until 6 PM.
No.
Or 5,
Oh, it was supposed to be 5:30.
oh, it's supposed to be 5:30. Wow, we went way past. So I will open our regular meeting at 5:52 PM.
And I will motion to move the committee into executive order.
Second.
Executive session, excuse me.
Yep. So I have a motion to convene an executive session and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so, I guess that's a roll call. How do you vote? Mrs. Anderson? Aye. Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Peter Smith?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so we convene and we will come back. I'll put do you want to go for 7,
6:30.
We can probably,
45 minutes?
yeah.
All right, so 6:45 PM. Welcome back. It is now 6:46. Thank you for everybody's patience. I know we were a little off schedule with our budget session tonight, but it was very thorough, and thank you again, Mr. Libby. I just want to review, because I didn't actually cover tonight's executive session. When we went into executive session, it was to cover a lot of minutes that we had to catch up on. They were from our executive sessions for food nutrition services, collective bargaining unit minutes for September 9th, September 24th, collective bargaining with secretaries on December 10th. We also had minutes from May 6th, special meeting executive session that was with town meeting. And then we also had collective bargaining pertaining to TTA teachers and contract pertaining to the non-union personnel, which needed to be addressed. So my apologies for not covering that ahead of time. And here we are back in our regular meeting. If we could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And then our announcement, which is tonight is March 11th. It's our regular school committee meeting. It's televised, it's recorded. It may be viewed live on Comcast Channel 22 and on Verizon Channel 34 on youtube.com/Tewksbury TV. Under the open meeting law, the public's permitted to make an audio or video recording of an open session of a public meeting. At this time, I'll ask if anybody's recording to please identify yourselves. And seeing nobody, we have no recognitions tonight. And we don't have Rania with us as well for our student report, but we do have a presentation tonight. So Mrs. Terry Regan, if you'd like to introduce.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very excited to introduce our guests tonight. If I could have them make their way up to the table, you'll be seeing a presentation for school year 25-26 with an updated preschool programming information. I'm really, really proud for this team coming in front of you tonight to share with you really a grassroots idea that came through from our preschool and pre-K teachers, who then collaborated with not only their school administrators but district administrators to really pull together a unified approach about how preschool programming could be done better to improve teaching and learning for our students. So, the esteemed guest with us tonight, I will start over here at the podium, our principal, Terry Garish from the Heathbrook School, our Director of Student Services and Special Education, Ms. Candace Tharrett, or Interim Director, I should say, Principal Alexis Bosworth at the Dewing School, Marie Hines, preschool teacher at the Dewing, Marie Smith, also at the Dewing School, and Christine Strickler, preschool teacher at the Dewing School. Also at the table, Dr. Cynthia Basteri, our coordinator of the Community Service Preschool, and Karen Baker O'Brien, Director of Student and Family Support, who also leads our student registration for preschools. So thank you for being with us tonight. And when you are ready over at the podium, our team has a...
Turn this on, and it's been a minute since I've done it, so.
Well, they have a presentation for you, and we'll be requesting a vote for you on looking at the fees for preschool.
Okay, and while they're doing this, I would entertain, following this presentation, we have two items that we could take out of order, which would be 18A and 18B, both pertaining to the guests that we have with us tonight. If the board would consider those items.
Yep, I'll make a motion to move 18A and 18B to just following the presentation this evening.
One second.
Okay, so that would be 18A, which would be the vote for the presentation, and then 18B, which would be pertinent to Candace Tharrett, which is regarding, since she's with us tonight, we could also take that item out of order. All in favor, please say aye. 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 Okay, and I say as well, so all in favor, then that passes. Thank you very much.
All right.
You're all
Well,
ready?
you know, I would be remiss if I didn't recognize that 3 of our preschool teachers are here, but this really was a whole group effort. The preschool teachers, along with the principals, invited both Ms. Milligan and myself over to the Doing School to really pitch what they thought was a great idea, and we all agreed with them. But it was the entire team and some of our special ed service providers. So we really have buy-in, and we really have a commitment to this new plan, and hopefully you'll see the benefits.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. This is fantastic to have such a turnout, so thank you all. And Mrs. Barrett, if you do end up joining us, it feels tight, feel free to use Rania's space, so, wherever feels comfortable. Thank you.
Okay, well, I will start. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the school committee, as well as our amazing central office team. We're so appreciative to have the opportunity to be here. Superintendent Regan really said everything I wanted to say. This project came from the heart of our staff here at the Doing and the Heathbrook schools. It has been a number of years that we've been having the conversation as to how to differently and we believe better support the preschool needs of our students. And we decided this year, let's make this happen. And we gave the staff the task of really doing all of the work, and they did it. They did an incredible job, and I'm just so excited for them to be able to present. I know the rest of the preschool team did want to attend this evening, but
They won.
They won. So they are here and ready to go. So without further ado.
So we first wanted to bring up some of the reasons why we've brought this proposal to you. The first one is that we have a high number of students in the sub-separate, and we want to, allow more opportunity for inclusion for all students where possible. Another thing is to have the schedule for the integrated preschool right now is 2 hours and 15 minutes for 4-year-olds and 3-year-olds. And that's really a short amount of time to meet the needs to prepare them for kindergarten. Kindergarten is a full day, so going from that short 2 hours and 15 minutes to the full day, that alone is a big transition for them. So providing a longer day for the 4-year-olds, we think will really benefit them and help us meet their needs to prepare them better for when they get to kindergarten. And the third thing is just keeping time for collaboration for all of us to align our PLC and CPT is great. We need the time for evaluations and for continued conversations. We have 3-year-olds who enroll all year, brand new. They're constantly coming in. It's not like a set class. So our classrooms are always changing throughout the year. So that will also help in meeting the needs of our students in that sense. What we first did when we were given the okay to go ahead and try and do this is we decided to reach out to local communities in the surrounding towns. And the majority of us knew at least one person that was a teacher or an administrator in a local town. And we reached out to them and gathered some data and some information about the different programs that they had. And what we found really interesting is everybody's is totally different. The hours, the staffing, everything is completely different. And thinking about what we came up with, we actually feel like it's really good in comparison to a lot of what we were seeing. We were really able to offer our students with this proposal a good, solid way to meet the needs to prepare them for kindergarten. We really want to keep that opportunity for inclusion fluid. And even in our sub-separate classrooms, we do allow inclusion time based on the needs, the individual needs of each student. And it can fluctuate based on how they are, their success level. We did find 2 districts that had gone to 100% inclusion. And after piloting it for just 1 year, they did go back to having a sub-separate classroom within their district. And, we do find there are some students that really need that sub-separate setting to prepare them for being fully integrated into the classrooms or provide a base level for them to be integrated more in the classroom. So that was really what we found. And so we have some models here for you. And these samples, the models, they allow like students with needs to be met in a variety based on their individual needs. So there's like 4 different settings. And it also shows how we also kept within the contractual requirements as the teachers. So there was no need to change any of that. Language or information, we were able to cover all of that within here and provide the 4-year-olds a lot more time while maintaining a good amount of time for the 3-year-olds.
Would you like us to review a little bit?
I think highlight
different
the
models?
differences between the schedules.
Okay, so the first schedule is our integrated preschool program. Keep in mind, we have 4-year-olds and we have 3-year-olds. Our 4-year-olds we prepare to enter kindergarten, and we believe that they do need some increased time. So what we have done is we are proposing we're proposing our 4-year-olds to attend preschool in the mornings for 3 hours, as opposed to the 2 hours and 15 minutes that we were doing previously. 5 days a week. We believe that the 5 days a week is really important, and again, preparing them to enter kindergarten. Then our 3-year-olds, we are, in order to balance things out and make up for some of the time, we'd like our 3-year-olds to be able to attend school for 2 hours a day, Monday through Thursday. What we found through many conversations over the years is families, for the most part, feel like a 5-day program for their 3-year-olds is a little bit too much. And so in order to meet that need, as well as to kind of meet the needs of all of the students as well as the teachers, we've identified Friday as the time where our 3-year-olds would not have school. That is an integrated model. We can have up to 15 students in the classroom. 7 of the students would be students who are receiving special education services, and 8 of the students would be paying tuition. That number is consistent with how we currently run our classrooms. The social learning group is something that we had tried a little bit informally a couple of years ago, but really want to formalize this a little bit better. We, as Mrs. Strickler had said earlier today, our students are constantly evolving. They change. The students turn 3 and become eligible to attend our preschool program if they require special education services throughout the course of the year. So while we may start perhaps at the beginning of the school year with 4 students, we very quickly double to 8, which has happened in both of our classrooms, both Mrs. Strickler and Mrs. Smith's classrooms this year. So it very quickly increases in numbers over the course of the year, whether it's our substantially separate or our integrated preschool program. We would like to take one of our substantially separate programs that we have and have an opportunity to create an integrated learning environment for the students in the mornings. So we would have typically developing 4-year-old students attend in the classroom for the 3-hour period. It would be a typical, we would run the Frog Street curriculum, same expectations as our integrated preschool classroom. Essentially, it would be another integrated preschool classroom, allowing us to have an opportunity to increase the number of tuition students that we can house at the school. So there's 8 additional spaces at each of our schools. We oftentimes have a waiting list. Those students would leave at the end of the 3-hour period, and the remainder of the day, another 2 hours, would be dedicated for the students who require those special education services to receive their more individualized learning sessions. So we do that typically following the model of applied behavior analysis, where students receive discrete trial training and just very structured educational programming. So that would allow the opportunity for that.
Well, and one of the things that we're trying to look at too is if we're supposed to provide a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment, we don't want to put our brand new kids automatically into the most restrictive setting that we have. We want to give them a chance to learn from their peers and to work together and to be able to have part of that day. And we're finding we've been doing that at the Heathbrook this year, and because we followed the Doings lead, and we're doing that at the preschool level, and so no child comes in to a sub-separate placement at the Heathbrook at this point. Everybody goes, and part of their day, as much as the day as they can, is put into an integrated setting. And we just now want to formalize that a little bit more.
And as we had mentioned, we do validate there are some students who need more intensive programming for longer periods of time. So we would like to be able to keep one of our classes, especially at the Doing School, where our numbers tend to be a little bit higher overall, especially with enrollment, to allow that more substantially separate programming as necessary. The real change with that is we've adjusted our times a little bit, which would allow our buses and not our buses, but our vans to drop off and pick up the students at the same time as our K and 1 students. Currently, we're running 8:45 and 8:50, so students are either sitting on the vans for extra periods of time, or it can be a little bit hectic with our arrival and dismissals. So we just wanted to switch that a little bit, so everybody would come in at 8:50, and those students that were there in our afternoon program would be able to leave at the 3:10. So that's another added bonus that is not necessarily listed here.
Mr. Libby.
2 integrated and one.
So the Heathbrook, the Doing School will have 3 integrated classes, then 1 social learning group class, and then 1 completely separate, so there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 preschool classrooms. Heathbrook will have 3, 2 integrated classrooms, and then 1 class that has the social learning group. So it's integrated in the morning and then has the ABA in the afternoon. We do not, at this time, we don't need another
Our numbers have been consistently higher in terms of enrollment, as well as special education services at the Doing School. So we do need to keep our number of classrooms a little bit higher for this next year. But there's no change.
No increase in staff.
No increase in staff. Five classrooms this year, 5 classrooms next year.
This is one of those net zero things.
Yes, those
Negative
conversations we've
impact,
had.
negative impact on the budget, negative impact on the contract.
And
kids benefit, which is why we went into it in the very beginning.
if I could just interject, if you remember, there was some conversation about the preschool teachers wanting to maintain their 15 and 15 minutes. We're hearing from the teachers, we want to start the same time as the rest of the school. We want our vans and the buses to be coming at the same time. And this is why I say I'm so proud to hear from a group of our faculty who have said, we have solutions, and we think this will be better, not only for our kiddos, but for all of us. So that's part of, I think, a change you would look forward to, is that they're not 5 minutes different now. It's exactly the same time. And 2 of the tasks from the first time this was pitched to us to coming in front of you tonight was, will this work with our vans and buses? And Mr. Libby has confirmed. And because after you give this your blessing, if you do tonight, we would obviously want to go into an MOU with the TTA, that because their schedule times listed for the next 3 years in that contract, we would want to go into an MOU with the TTA leadership that this is in fact the way we're going to schedule preschool.
The next part, Mrs. Tharrick, could you advance the slide? Okay, so we've already, did you want to speak about guidelines for placement, or have we already addressed that?
I can speak to it.
That'd be great, Maria.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we would like to work with some guidelines that would be flexible, especially as we start the program, to see how they work. But we would like to place students based on their areas of need and their areas of strength. The social program would focus on students that need more practice with social skills, interacting with peers, but also have a lot of pre-readiness skills. We have a curriculum called the ACE curriculum. We run core skills assessments on our students to determine baseline data. So those students in the social group would have higher skills and scores versus the students in the sub-separate program. The students in the sub-separate program would need more smaller group instruction, which would allow us to teach them targeted skills in a more repetitive, using the principles of ABA, which will hopefully allow for them to move up to more of an integrated setting with that early intensive instruction. So the students in the sub-separate require more significant prompting and assistance in those first early years of teaching. But the goal is always that with that early intensive ABA, they will be able to attend the integrated program more. The sub-separate program, all of our programs in preschool are, allow for that opportunity for integration. The sub-separate classroom does start with 30 minutes of integration. It's just built into the program, but students only grow from that.
One of the things that we wanted to do too is, as we looked at making sure that we had more accessible programming available for the full range of students, we wanted to make sure that we addressed family needs as well. And so to that, we looked to Dr. Basteri. And so we said, all right, so we've got the school day, 2.5 hours, 3 hours, but there are families that want their child to be able to have an experience from when the school begins to the beginning to the end. And so that's where we want to continue. We wanted to make sure that the community services extended day program would be able to fit and dovetail with this. Dr. Basteri, do you want to talk about that a tiny bit?
Thank you, Principal Garish. First of all, hello to all the members of the school committee administration. It's nice to see all of you. We have an amazing community services extension program staff. And when the idea first came out, they said, Cindy, we are willing to do whatever it takes to keep the program going. So it will mean a little less time for the extension program staff to be with the 4-year-olds and a little more time for the extension program staff to be with the 3-year-olds. But again, the staff is amazing, and we've come up with a plan that we can all work together, offer the full day program 5 days a week for the 4-year-olds and 4 days a week for the 3-year-olds.
And Dr. Basteri and her folks that work with us every day, they fixed one of my little typo thing. I do the math and the data entry, and I made a mistake, and I thought, oh, that doesn't make sense. And so thank goodness Cindy looked at it and she said, oh, you know what, you didn't multiply that by 2. And I went, oh. All right. But what that means is the extended day portion is completely self-funded. It doesn't cost the district any money. As a matter of fact, there's about a $40,000 cushion in there for expenses that are less than. What we did was, and folks said you didn't want to see all my spreadsheets with all of the dollars amounts.
Yeah, you still have them printed in case they want to see.
Just in case, once an accountant, always an accountant, right? But what we did was we took a look at we looked at the current program, and we looked at where the integrated tuition is $300 a month, and the extended day program is $545 a month, for a total of $845 a month. What we did was I then turned around and calculated that based on the number of hours, what did it cost per hour for a family? And it came up to be about $7.25. And so we said, all right, well, now, what happens if instead of making everybody have the same, what if we apportion it? Because those who are paying for more hours pay more hourly rate, and those that are paying for fewer hours would pay for less. And so then we calculated, and so we have two. We did, because I went for the $850 and said, Terry, and folks said, Terry, that's too high. And then I tried to argue with them, and so then we had to put the $8 down because we had to have an option. But right now, for our 4-year-olds at $850 an hour, if people use the integrated and do tuition students for the integrated portion of the day only, they would pay $435 a month. If they added the extension program, which for the 4-year-olds would be Monday through Friday, it would increase to $995 a month. Right now, it's what is it, $845, so there's about a $150 increase for the additional time. 3-year-olds, instead of paying $300 a month and $845, are now would now with this pay $245 a month and $795, because the 3-year-olds, remember, are going Monday through Thursday instead of Monday through Friday. And so we did the total number, we did the number of hours. So we're looking at, for $8, we're looking at an increase of about 75 cents an hour, and the $8.50, we're looking about $1.25 of an hour increase. We then did, thanks to Director O'Brien and Mr. Libby, and looked around at the costs for area preschools. And with this increase, we're in the ballpark. We're in the high end of the ballpark, but we're in the same ballpark as everybody else. And and even when we're counting private schools in addition to public schools. So one of the things that we're looking for help and saying, how can we take this terrific idea that they've used from PD that they've experienced, the data that they've collected from students, the conversations with families, to try to take the needs, what's best for children at the developmental age, what do they need now, what do they need going forward. They've met with all the kindergarten teachers as well, so that we know about those transitions and talking about the transitions. So we think, we believe and we support their proposal that says they figured out what's good for kids developmentally. They figured out, we got everybody on board because we want to find out, because Tewksbury Public Schools is about what's good for families. And we do everything through the child. And so we tried, what are all the different ways that can happen? And so we found a way, and then how do we make it as affordable as we can, but also being fiscally responsible. That's the second batch of spreadsheets, but they said, don't show that, Terry, just show the one, because nobody wants to see all those numbers. Besides, Dave gave you plenty earlier today, this evening. But the idea is that, the community service pays for itself. We are required to provide a program for our students who have individual education programs. Our students with special needs have to, we have to do that. And so why not do it in a way that benefits all of our kids, as many children as possible, in a way that helps not only our children with disabilities, but those with, we front-end load services at the preschool level and provide all kinds of supports so that we can gradually fade those students, We had students that were 2 years ago in a substantially separate program, and then this year they were in we didn't call it social learning group, but it was, they spent more and more of their time they're in kindergarten now, and they're spending more than half of their day in a general education classroom. And next year, I've got 3 out of 5 kids going into a regular inclusion classroom because they are able to do grade level work with the right supports. So the idea is, if we support special education that believes every child can be successful, given the right supports, we listened to our experts, who then turned around and looked at the research to other experts and said, this is what's good for kids and this is what they need now. And we think it's a good idea.
Thank you. Well, now you may be wondering about the registration process, so I'm going to explain.
Yeah, and Karen makes it all happen.
So upon your approval of whichever, the $8.50 or $8, and then the hour changes, our goal is on Friday, the 14th, to do an email flyer to the existing 3-year-old families with a letter asking them, are they interested in returning for next year, because they get priority registration, and their registration would start as of Friday all the way through March 26th. Based on the census,
We already have our envelopes ready to go, and we're going to be mailing out flyers to those families on Friday. So once we get the determination of how many families will be returning as 4-year-olds, on March 27th at 10:30 in the morning, we will be at the public library doing a presentation similar to what you just heard, explaining the changes for the families, what it will mean, and we'll also explain the registration process, which is done through Community Pass. So on April 2nd, we will open Community Pass at 7 o'clock. It is like parents have to be there. We will send email reminders out, and we will post, please get your Community Pass account straightened out because it goes very quickly, those openings. But it is a time-stamped program, which means once somebody goes in and registers, if you don't happen to get the slot, that's where the wait list for both schools is generated. It is based on that timestamp in Community Pass. On April 4th, we will send out confirmation emails to those families, along with instructions on how to apply through Droplet, fill out all the registration paperwork, submit the required documentation, as well as set up their appointments with Elise, who's our enrollment specialist, who will then meet with them virtually, and those meetings will begin on April 14th. So that's our registration process.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Am I good?
Yeah. Thank
Sorry.
you.
Okay.
Yes, jump in.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love this. This is, sorry, Dave, my favorite presentation that we've heard in a long time. I love the fact that we're trying to, yours too, that we're trying to bring more kids in. I love that we're trying to diversify the classrooms. I think it's really, really great. I have some just kind of general questions that you can probably answer. You just, Ms. Baker O'Brien, you mentioned that we'll use the census to kind of prepare for the number of students. Do you expect to use that throughout the year?
So the census is what we get from the town is what we use to do the mailing out to the families, both for kindergarten and for preschool.
Is that just like a one-time thing, or is that more of a rolling?
For preschool, it is a one-time thing, but for kindergarten, we do multiple reach-outs to families.
And then, so my next question is about guidelines for placement, and kind of how that takes place, how that determination takes place, especially with students that you haven't met yet. I get that as they're in your classroom, you would be able to identify where they would best fit, but off the bat, how do you plan to properly place?
So when a family decides that they would like their child to come to school, tell them about the process that happens.
Sure. So typically we have an evaluation for the students. They come in and it's kind of an arena style, and we have, based off of the parent questionnaire that goes out, if they have concerns with physical therapy or occupational therapy or speech language, we'll develop the team that will come to the evaluation. If for some reason we're evaluating the student and there is a need or a concern on our part, we may call down and ask somebody to join and have eyes on the student to do some evaluating. So typically it will be an integrated classroom teacher. If there are needs, there'll be a special education teacher, and then all of the service providers will be there. And we basically follow a different, well, we used a couple of different programs to evaluate where they are. Right now we use something called the TPBA, and that will give us an indication of what level this child's at different in different areas. And we utilize that as well. If we have a special education concern, we may pull out something called the core skills that we use for an assessment, and we might run a few core skills to see, do they have the skill or do they not? Because a lot of times that's a criteria that we'll use to determine if they need to be in that separate classroom. And then based off of all of the information we gather, then we have we let the parents know based on what we find.
Do you have a team? Do you have a meeting?
Yes. Then we have the meeting for the parents.
So just to back up a little bit, as the majority of our referrals will come through early intervention, and those come to us somewhat, typically around 2.9, sometimes earlier. So we receive a lot of information from them. We have a transition meeting in which our special education case manager goes and meets with the family as well as the team in early intervention to get some information about the assessment. And so that's ongoing throughout the course of the year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So the next one is on cost. You mentioned that we're in the ballpark for surrounding towns and private. Does that take into account the change in the hours and increasing, the number of hours, the amount of time students would be in the classroom? Are we still ahead of the surrounding?
We're a better deal than most.
But I wanted to kind of reiterate that 2.15 hours is kind of typically what you see, or 2.5 hours. So
Right.
bumping it up, I think, is great. And then is there a flyer for this library session that we can share?
So the flyer will be updated once the approval hopefully happens, and that will be posted. Our websites will all be updated on Friday with the new information. And I did forget to mention that we are recording the session at the library, and it will be made available on the local cable access for all families.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks, Madam Chair. All set.
That's great. Thank you. Mr. Russo.
I'm going to share the same sentiment as my colleague, Ms. Biagioni-Smith. This is by far a presentation that I have personally been waiting for, and I think, for me personally, I think it's because we've been talking about the rising costs, especially of out-of-district placement, and talking about how do we solve that problem.
Starts here.
And it starts with this foundation. So, and the fact that there's collaboration across the entire district is very impressive. So thank you for coming and sharing this with us. I as well, just a couple thoughts and a couple questions. So, and just for my own ignorance here, so when we talk about the fee structure, you're saying tips only, and then CS extension. Can you just, what are those?
TIPS is Tewksbury Integrated Preschool.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And CS is Community Service Extension.
Okay, so that, all right, got it. Okay, so that's helpful then, because then that goes back to the grids that you shared. So if there's 5 classrooms at the Dewing, 3 integrated, 1 social learning group, and 1 sub-separate, and then 3 at the Heathbrook for a total of 8 classrooms, I think that's roughly, 135 students, roughly? give
So
or
we've
take?
got, I just counted the tuition, because I
Oh,
was
and
just
is
looking at the
that,
money.
but
Yeah,
but that's going to be, that lines up with what we have now in terms of
Yes.
preschool enrollment.
So there would be an increase in tuition because we are able, with the social learning group, we're able to add 8 additional
So 16
enrollment
over
slots.
for both
Or
schools.
Okay.
16 in total. So that would be an increase in the revenue.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, and I'm sure you know this, our students who receive special education services who come into our preschool program do not pay tuition.
Yeah. Okay, so, and it was more about just from the numbers perspective, in terms of number of students, let me clarify, number of students versus the revenue side of it.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, the goal is to grow the preschool practice throughout, especially at some point if the state decides that they're going to mandate this, in the next several years. So why not get ahead of the curve from Tewksbury's perspective, which I think is fantastic. And the other thing, too, that this factors in is the whole space committee that we've been talking about.
Right.
At some point, if this district decides to reconfigure or even figure out how we can accommodate certain grade bands at certain buildings, especially with 2 aging buildings that we're talking about doing in Heathbrook, and then now you tack on how our preschool program is going to grow, we need dedicated space for that to grow this. And then ultimately it continues to grow throughout the district as it comes. So I applaud the efforts here, I really do, a great deal, and thank you for coming in and sharing with us.
And I'd like to mention, too, that although not part of this presentation, the program at the high school will remain intact with no changes, so that is another 15 slots in addition to these
this.
that are being offered.
Yep, incredible, thank you.
That's everybody.
I would just like to echo the sentiments from my colleagues, but having presentations like this where the staff is coming in and coming up with these great ideas is huge, especially because these are probably the most vulnerable kids, and if we get them off to a better start, like you guys have presented here, it just sets them up for success for the rest of their educational career with us. So I appreciate the efforts that you guys put in to come up with this. I have a couple questions. The $40,000 you said you have in a cushion, is that, I guess for the $8 per hour, is that a net neutral cost?
The,
Allow a cushion still, or?
the community service program, we had, I think it was $49,112, and that was the $8 an hour.
Some of that would, some of the costs would be to set up new classrooms, because we're adding additional classrooms, so the startup cost for classrooms, certainly. But this is a total 100% cost-effective model where the school district does not have to pay anything.
Yeah, at $8 an hour, we anticipate $346,000 of income, and then with an expense of $318,900.
Okay, great.
So the difference
And then,
between the two, yeah.
You went into my next question, which was the space required. So I know that you said there was not going to be any additional increase in staff, but is there additional need of space to support this and do you have that all figured out?
Yes. Short answer, yes. We have had, at the Dewing, we have had to limit the number of community service extension students that we've been able to service or support because of space. But for next year, I've become a pretty good expert in space allocation. Thank you to my mentor, Mrs. Garish. And next year, I will be able to allocate one additional classroom to the Community Services Extension Program so they have a little more space. Right now, in the middle of the day, it can be a little bit busy as we have sometimes 30 children in one smaller space, so we want to be able to divide that up a little bit and also allow for more students, more families to access the extension program at the Dewing, because we know that is a need for our community here.
And does that take into account, because it seems like we have an increasing number of kindergarten kiddos coming in, so does that take into account additional space?
Possibly.
Yes, it does. It does. I have a plan for if we were to increase one community service extension classroom, as well as a plan for if we have to increase a kindergarten classroom at the Dewing School. It may mean that some of our service providers will have to go to smaller space and perhaps work together in a larger classroom, but that's something that happens very frequently.
Okay.
And Heathbrook has
And it also
has space.
continues to allow us, it also continues to allow
interrupted.
us adequate space to support our TLC program, which needs two classrooms.
Okay. And then I'm going to go back to Dave's presentation and his capital budget requirements, because I know that there was a line item on there about the Heathbrook preschool playground. It seems like if we increase the number of kids at the Heathbrook, does that become more of a requirement that we're going to have to put on our need list?
I would love to say that that's yes, but one of the things is that we also know we don't live in a vacuum, and we know that there are considerations about the facilities. And so what Alexis and I have done, and we're working on an indoor play area. So for not only the preschool, but the kindergarten kids, there are like 6 to 8 stations. Our site council is working on it, this year, and so that they can have a market so we can bring a class at a time, and they can come and sign up, and so that they can play, which is also not weather dependent either. Right. So it's not the first choice, but we also we live in a world that we know we have to take care of kids no matter what.
Okay. And with mine, that may inhibit my adding the indoor play space, but we were fortunate that we do have a dedicated preschool
because of the number of years, because you were able to get that.
Right.
Yep. So they've got the outside, we've got the inside. Between us, we're perfect.
And then just my last question, for the extension program, does that get them to 310, or does that get them to like after school as well?
310.
Just a 3:10.
So it's a full.
Typical school day.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Moncada?
Yeah, well, your enthusiasm and your thoughtfulness is clear, so thank you for this. It's a great presentation. I echo all of their sentiments as well. My only question would be, since it's a new program, we don't know how things go, will there be like a midstream, how are we doing? Does anything need to be changed or corrected? Or look at even at the end of the
I think you would absolutely want to
year?
know halfway through the year and say, how are things looking so far? What's the enrollment look like? Get a feedback from the teachers. You'll be doing it. And it'll be happening in both of the schools on a monthly basis to say what's working, what's not working, but that's part of what our PLCs will do too, is looking at that student data, because that's what PLCs do. They say, what's effective, what's not effective yet, what's working in this classroom, what isn't working in this classroom. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you again for coming.
My comments, I've got I do a little bit of a different angle. I want to thank administration for kind of giving the empowerment to the staff to really kind of go grassroots a little bit on this, and giving you guys the kind of power and control to kind of spearhead some of this. I think I know some of you personally, and to know how passionate you are about the work that you do every day. I know I've seen you in the classroom, and it's pretty special what you do with kids. So I'm really excited to see how this works out, and to see it grow. I'm super excited to see the preschool program in general really grow, and thank you very much for kind of like putting this together the way that you have. Some questions about accessibility. So are all students right now that are interested in having extended day, is that accessible to them? Is there a wait list? Has that worked out okay?
As far as the list or wait list is concerned, it's solely based on first come, first serve for registration.
Okay.
But we obviously make every effort to accommodate any students that are in our program and do what we have to do. It also serves as a nice place for students to find out what it's like to be in a full-day environment with licensed teachers.
Yeah.
So I think it's a kind of a win-win situation all around.
Okay, that was a good one. And then for IEP stuff, I mean, how does that work at this level? Because you can't have a minute to step away from your kids. So, I mean, I see you have this break time.
Yeah. They're very good.
How do you get that work done? I mean, how do you?
It's the scheduling of the day. Marie and Christine schedule it on, ABA classrooms are scheduled on a 2 to 5 minute, every 2 to 5 minutes something changes. The integrated probably go every 10 to 15 minutes. But the whole premise of a preschool program is taking what needs to happen, who are the staff that are needed, and then how do we match up each of those all day long.
And that's what that time is that you have like kind of sectioned out in between?
So in between, you have the morning class, you'd have 3 hours of the morning class.
Yep.
And then that gets done at, 11:50. Then the next class doesn't start until 1 o'clock because they're in Community Services Extension. And that's the time when our folks get to eat their lunch, they do some prep work, they maybe do some assessment, they do some, and then they come back and they teach the second class because they do 2 sets of kids a day.
Okay. Okay, and then what's the percentage of your 3-year-olds that are returning as 4-year-olds?
Almost 100%.
Yeah.
Last year, we had 4 openings. For going from 3 to 4, we only had 4 spaces open.
That's why we have a form that they need to fill out and get back to us by a deadline, because, we have to be fair to the other people, but we also need to be transparent to the community and let them know how many slots we do have available. There's usually the high school has a little bit more, but there is no community service extension program linked to that. So it's
That's
just up to
impressive.
families, but we like to know exactly what we have available.
That's great, very impressive. Okay, those are my questions. Well, hopefully, I mean, the administration's been very generous with early education, so hopefully maybe something will come along that'll benefit Tewksbury.
Can I ask one more question? Sorry, because it just made me think of it. For the preschoolers who are in the integrated preschool program that do not start until 1:10, do they have the option for the extended day to start?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so they can go a full day?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's a little longer.
Yep,
They get a longer session in the morning.
yep.
Because it's a
Right, right.
shortest
Yeah,
school.
one part goes
But they
4-3,
have
the other part
ability
goes
to come at
3-4.
8:50. Okay, thank you.
Well, I have no more questions. Anything else? So,
I mean, I would entertain a motion, but I guess, just a point of clarification, so you're looking for the committee to decide and ultimately vote on not only the proposal,
But the cost.
but the cost in terms of which structure? Is that just for point of clarification?
Yes.
And the time change.
And the time change?
Yes.
So that could, you could vote first on
Yeah.
the schedule, and then second on tuition costs.
And, okay, so I will make a motion to approve the time change as laid out in the schedule, which, if I understand correctly, is going to be from, is it 8:10 to 3:10?
Teacher contractual workday.
Teacher contractual
Yeah,
work.
they would have the same.
That would
before,
have to be the
after.
same, okay, so
Yeah.
it's just the
Yes.
start and stop time, okay. So from 8:50 to 3:10,
right, so we could take this as two separate votes?
yeah.
Or we could take this as one vote. So it'd be the consideration to approve the change in hours as outlined in the proposal,
Yeah.
and then also to approve the fee rate increases as outlined in the proposal. So would you like to take this as two separate or one combined vote?
Two separate.
I think we have to agree on which fee rate we're going
Correct.
to go with first,
Correct.
and then a full vote of the fee rate plus the schedule change.
Okay, so let's go first with the change in hours as outlined in the proposal.
Okay, so as I just stated, then I'll make a motion to update the student day from 8:50 to 3:10 as per the presentation this evening.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, so moving on to the fee rate increases as outlined in the proposal.
So,
And those
Hey.
don't have to be taken separately. Unless somebody has an issue with either one.
What do you,
Is it an either or?
an either or?
Yes.
And is there a recommendation?
I recommend the $8.50 an hour because since I've been here for 10 years, this is only the second time we've increased tuition. And I believe that it's still a fair and reasonable cost for families, and it doesn't put people into an extraordinary, into any kind of financial hardship in order to do that. And if there was such a case, we would certainly entertain and superintendent's office, and we would have conversation about that with families.
So I appreciate your fiscal responsibility there, but I feel like for the community, if the $8 an hour still is self-funded and self-sustaining, then I think that that would be a better option for the community members.
Yeah, Ms. Anderson, it becomes self-sustaining for the community service portion, the extended day portion only.
Yeah.
The rest of the program costs the district money regardless of what the tuition is.
Regardless of the tuition,
Yeah, I think I appreciate that as well. I think that it's great, but I also agree with Ms. Garish's recommendation. I think that the $8.50 an hour is reasonable, and I think that, as you mentioned, we're increasing the hours, the amount of time we're having students on site. I think that it does still align pretty well with the surrounding towns, the private schools. I think it remains competitive. And it is a small number of students, at the end of the day, that are being accepted into this program. I think it just still remains pretty competitive.
I agree. I think if we have a 100%, nearly 100% rate of students that are returning, yeah, I agree.
We don't always fully enroll the program. I think we built these models with maybe 60%.
We built with a 100% for the 4-year-olds and a 60% for the 3-year-olds.
That's true.
So
because they age in.
some assumptions on sales.
Yeah, sales low, expenses high.
We want to make sure we do cover those expenses.
So is
Yes.
the 850 your recommendation too? Okay.
Can I just ask clarification on that then? So, Mr. Libby, so are you saying, when you're saying you're modeling out 60%, is that because, if I heard correctly, it's because not every 3-year-old is starting on August 28th or whatever the date is. They're trickling in throughout the year based on...
There is a rolling admission.
Rolling admission,
And then,
okay.
quite frankly, because the 3-year-old, because they're the littles, it's, parents don't necessarily want them to have a 6.5-hour day.
Sure.
So that's why we figured that we would end up with overall fewer of them. And so sometimes we have 12 out of 15 kids, sometimes we have 10 out of 15 kids. It depends. What we start the year we have now, we have many more kids than we started the year.
So your full expense is, obviously, you have that for the whole year, but your
Right.
revenue that you're taking in from the 3-year-olds per se is 60%, because based on maybe the average of
Yeah.
when a student moves in.
That's right. Yep, yep.
All right, I got you.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, I would agree with that then, too. So I guess I'll make a motion to approve the $8.50 an hour tuition cost structure as presented this evening.
I would second that.
And this would be a roll call vote. Mrs. Bigioni, how you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Ms. Anderson?
Aye.
And Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. So that would be for a unanimous vote of the $8.50 per hour tuition cost for approval.
Thank you, Madam
That
Chair.
would be the program and the tuition cost for approval.
We'll get that pamphlet ready.
Thank you. Oh, we're ready.
Our district newsletter goes out this Friday, so perhaps we can put that in the newsletter. If you could all just stay seated for a little bit, I'd
It's
appreciate that.
exciting. And, yeah, please keep us posted on how it goes. Yeah.
I'm so proud
I'm going to leave the team seated, if that's okay with you, Madam Chair, for the next item.
Please do. So then that would be 18B that we also voted to take out. Mrs. Terry Regan, if you wanted to.
Sure. Well, at this time, and thank you for saying, because you are an amazing team, and you are all working hard for our littlest students, and especially our students on IEPs. And with that, your interim director is sitting at the table with you tonight. But I'm about to make a recommendation to appoint Ms. Candace Tharrett as the Director of Student Services and Special Education. And I'm going to just wow you with the many things Candace has done for this district, and you'll see that how her leadership has led to so many advancements we've made in special education and in general education. Ms. Tharrett has been with us since 2012. She was the previous Assistant Director of Student Services and Special Ed, but that's not all. She has led a number of professional development series for staff and families since her time here, including the introduction of a formal aid orientation, now embedded into our mentor training. She's done ABA, DTT, I'm not sure what DTT means, training. She's done crisis prevention. In fact, Candace was our first CPI trainer in the district, and she trains others to lead that PD. She has trained in understanding behavior and de-escalation strategies, remote learning, functional communication, and PECS. Again, there's lots of acronyms here. She's provided training for our parents and caregivers, both in CPI, sharing strategies from other crisis intervention programs, function-based strategies for home setting, family engagement and behavior services, family engagement and EDS eligibility and services, special education vendor fair. That's been something fairly new that's been amazing. Under district-wide behavior services, Candace has led the district in bringing in BCBAs and home ABA providers, as well as currently you hear us talk about RBT support staff. She's developed strong continuum of tiered supports to address behaviors across the district. She has supported and implemented the ACE, Autism Curriculum Encyclopedia program for students. She has created a DLC checklist. It's a progress checklist to create consistency in our programming, and her research data, and this made me very proud, I've saved this as a special piece of evidence from Candace, was actually presented at last year's Babbitt Conference. Candace has also led the internship with a partnership with the 21st Century Grant for After School ABA program to increase inclusivity. She has developed and ran afternoon ABA program during COVID, developed an in-house home service screener to support our home service model. I'm almost done. She's led the organization and development of our summer programming since 2019, supported development and implementation of SEL Bridge programming, and especially the new introduction of a lower bridge program for our younger students. Her future focus areas, and you've heard some of them because you were here for the special ed audit, is specialized curriculum and training with a primary focus on literacy for all learners, transition planning for our students age 14 through 22, a need in the district and right on the front burner for Candace, special ed programming and continuum of services and supports, and special ed messaging with a user-friendly website for staff and students. And then the last bullet here, but I know not the last one in her head, is the development of a special ed program description guidebook, if you will, with entrance and exit criteria, as well as increasing inclusion opportunities for all special ed students. You heard just really a showcase of that tonight. So clearly Candace is an underachiever, but in all seriousness, Candace Tharrett is an asset to our leadership team. She is a true support to families and to all of our staff, and above all, a tireless and compassionate advocate for our students. So, Madam Chair, once again, I wholeheartedly recommend Ms. Candace Tharrett as our Director of Student Services and Special Education, and that will require a vote of the committee.
That was fantastic. So, okay, any discussion?
Why wasn't this recommendation brought up sooner? That list.
Well, we let her try on the job, right, for about almost a year now, and she's doing a fantastic job for all.
Yeah, very proud. Any comments? No.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation to appoint Candace Tharrett as the Student Services and Special Education Director.
Should I second that? I'll second that. There was a funny joke that they told me that I was going to make all the motions tonight because it was my last meeting, so that was what that look was.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve the recommendation for Ms. Tharrett's position. So all in favor, please say aye.
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 So, yep, thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Do you accept?
Thank you for moving this up. It's Candace's son's birthday, so this will give her the opportunity to get home before he goes to bed, I hope.
You might barely make it, but
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for all your hard work. And again, thank you all for being here tonight. This is great. And I know it's a late night already. So.
Just wanted to say something. So just, I appreciate everyone here and all of your time and efforts, and I just hope you see the showcase of having the staff here today. I think, as someone that can lead a district, to positive things, I think you really have to see the boots on the ground every day that are really doing the hard work, and we're really proud of everybody that, is working with us here in the district. And so just really proud to continue to be a part of that and to be a part of the growth, to see us move forward in a positive direction and to continue to do that. So I just appreciate the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Candace, I have to say, since you have taken the reins, I feel the growth.
Yeah.
Personally, I definitely do, so thank you.
I appreciate that comment. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Just have a few items left. All right, seeing nobody here, we'll pass over Citizens Forum. We have the approval of minutes.
Sure, so I motion to approve February 5th, 2025 regular business meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
All right, a motion by Mr. Moncada, a second by Mr. Russo. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So those minutes of February 5th have now been approved. And the submission and payment of bills.
Yeah, and I just realized, Rich, do you want to take these or should I?
No. Let's go ahead, Mr. Moncada.
So for payroll period ending Feb 13th, 2025, I move this school department payroll be approved and certified in the amounts and categories as shown for a total amount of $1,664,834.94.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Moncada, second by Mr. Russo, to approve and certify the payroll period ending February 13th, 2025, total amount of $1,664,834.94. Roll call vote. Mr. Moncada, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson? Aye. Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
I vote aye as well for a unanimous vote.
And then secondly, for February 27th, 2025, I move the school department payroll be approved and certified in the amounts and categories as shown for a total amount of $1,630,265.77.
Okay.
I will second that.
A motion by Mr. Moncada, seconded by Mr. Russo to approve and certify the payroll period ending February 27, 2025, total amount of $1,630,000, $265.77. Roll call vote. How do you vote, Mr. Moncada?
Aye.
Mrs. Biagioni Smith?
Aye.
Sorry, Mrs. Anderson? Aye. Mr. Russo, and I vote
Aye.
aye as well for a unanimous vote.
Wait.
All over, sorry. All right, and for our superintendent staff report, Mrs. Terry Regan.
Sure, thank you, Madam Chair. I will go quickly. There are just a few updates, the first of which is really just an update from my announcement last week that we have opened up nomination timeline for the Ginsburg Family Award and the Chrissy Palomino Outstanding Educator Award. What's the nice update is these forms have gone digital. They're posted on the website. The digital form will also be posted in our district newsletter tomorrow. Last week, the Assistant Superintendent and I had attended the AASA, National School Superintendents Association Conference. The theme of this year's session was Future-Driven Leadership, how to effectively lead our staff, students, and school district into the future with new AI tools and through the reality and challenges we are facing as we build future school budgets. As much as we may feel different from state to state, networking with leaders all over our nation reminds us of the similarities and challenges we all face in this hard work. Next week, the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents is hosting the Women in School Leadership for a day-long professional development session in Framingham. The theme is Standing in Your Power, Strengthening Confidence and Comfort in the Leadership Role, delivered by Dr. Jennifer Cheatham of Harvard School of Education. We have 6 of our women leaders attending this PD. I do want to thank you, Madam Chair, and the committee for allowing us, the leaders of the Tewksbury Public Schools, these opportunities to get out to get our own professional development done. We're usually planning PD for others, so please know how appreciative we are as these opportunities provide us with the rejuvenation we need to do our own jobs a little bit better. You may have heard that Russell Johnston, our current and acting Commissioner of Massachusetts, excuse me, Department of Education, has announced his resignation. His last day as the commissioner here in Massachusetts is March 28th. I can speak for myself, and I know you were on some of the pandemic DESE meetings online with us. We all got to know Russell more closely via those Zoom meetings that were happening weekly. He's been a lifelong champion of students, a dedicated supporter of the work we do in our district, and truly just a kind and approachable leader. The Board of Education is currently seeking an interim commissioner. I'll keep you updated when we hear more. With that, we have 2 of our very own school leaders retiring at the end of this year. I know you've heard already, the Heathbrook principal, Ms. Terry Garish, is retiring at the end of June. And most recently, the Ryan School principal, Ms. Judy McGinnis, has shared her resignation or retirement intent. It's in your packet. I can share with you that we have completed our search for Ms. Garish's replacement and have only just begun the search for Ms. McGinnis's replacement. We posted her position on Friday. My plan is to announce both the new Heathbrook principal and Ryan School principal in April at hopefully our 16th or our 30th meeting, and then offer some community meet and greet times for both of them. I will wait until our end of the year school committee meeting to bring in Judy and Terry, where we can shower them both with our words of praise and accolades. So for now, I can assure you, though, they are both committed to ending strong as the current principals of their respective schools. Our end-of-year school events and celebrations, it is in the works. It's under development. Our principals should have that complete for you by April 10th. You have the digital file. I even shared it with you, Mr. Russo, just to help you fill your calendar. And again, we should have that finalized by April 16th. An update on parking, and I think this was a question from you, Mr. Russo. I did ask Principal Long, how is it going with students since the change? I know that was a question asked at the last meeting. He did survey 60 students, and I will tell you what they said. They were worried or skeptical at first, but it has not been an issue. 100% have said that. They stated that the policy is fair, and it feels like just anywhere else you go. Most students park in the same spot every day, near their friends. About 50% said that. Many, about 50%, said that they park strategically to beat the buses out in the afternoon. Some, about 20%, said they park somewhere close to their last class of the day. Others park in a different location if they need to stay after school for athletics or activities or clubs. A couple of concerns the seniors shared was seniors on senior project, and this is a little different for them, may not have access to the same spot as they used to if they have to pop into school. So that was a senior concern. And then the cost of the parking fee, some still feel it's too high. So that's a little update. Mr. Long is looking into whether or not tardies have improved as a result of this, or if there's any correlation at all. I do want to share with you some really good news, and I know we will take any new grant dollars whenever we get it. I want to share with you 2 new grants that we have received. As soon as I can find my notes, here they are. And when you vote to approve the consent agenda, you will be approving these grants as well. So we're excited to share that the Tewksbury Memorial High School has been awarded a grant from the 1-8 Foundation for the Project Lead the Way High School Biomedical Science Program. This is a very exciting addition to our STEM programming. This is where students participate in high-quality applied learning through Project Lead the Way. We already partner with Project Lead the Way in an engineering program and capstone class. This really adds to the offerings of our STEM program at Tewksbury Memorial High School for students. And it also certainly further exposes them to careers in STEM. I'm also excited to share with you that the John Wynn Middle School has been awarded a grant from the 1-8 Foundation for the Project Lead the Way Gateway program. This is a program that students have that apply learning with Project Lead the Way through robotics, coding, flight and space study, human body systems, and even more. They really engage in hands-on real-world challenges and collaborative problem solving. They will engage in this real-world career exploration to stretch their imaginations and connect their learning to real life. So again, I want to thank you, and you hear this often, Dr. Cindy Basteri, Karen Baker O'Brien, and Mary Jo Kelleher, who continues to lead the charge in offering new programs here at our high school and now connecting it down to the middle school. So again, with your vote of the consent agenda, we will be able to accept that funding. Let's see. I think that's it for my updates, other than I want to say happy anniversary to my husband, Peter, who's home celebrating our 36th anniversary alone. Maybe that's why we've been 36 years and going strong. So happy anniversary, Peter. I look forward to many more anniversaries to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions?
No.
Any plans for how they're going to implement the grants? More so at the Wynn, I think, than the high school.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I can't wait to hear more about it. So the funds, the $40,000 and the $17,500 will be distributed over 3 years, and it provides professional development for the teachers, curriculum resources, and then that opportunity to participate not only in the applied learning, but the capstone product. So I will continue to update you as to how it's going. This is really a great year where Assistant Superintendent Milligan has more experience with Project Lead the Way in her prior district, but this year's implementation of the engineering and the capstone will share with us more of what it's going to look like in the future to come.
Okay, great.
Yeah, the way that the middle school, it's called
Gateway.
middle school gateway programs, and they're more modules, so they're not full-year curriculum, so you can really pick from the different modules, and we can use it in our STEM classes and our science classes, a variety of different ways, so we'll be looking at all those options, but we'll pick the modules that best align to our high school programming. So,
Which at this point is engineering and biomedical, and as we expand, we'll want the Gateway experience as well.
yeah, there's about 9 different modules. There's a variety of computer science, a variety of different options.
And I know that we just had teachers here very enthusiastic sharing with you their program updates. We have very enthusiastic teachers, because this could not be done without dedicated high school and middle school teachers. I'll throw bouquets at them and get them an opportunity to maybe come in front of you and share what they did this year. I mean, some of the hands-on, real-life problems that they're solving is pretty cool.
Oh, neat. Great. Okay, I'm excited for it. Awesome. Thank you. All right, Mrs. Milligan.
Good evening. I also want to say thank you for allowing me to attend the AASA conference last week. I appreciate the focus on AI and instructional supports that we attended. Your support is greatly appreciated, so thank you. In your packet, you have 2 correspondences included. The first is a reminder of the upcoming MCAS dates on the MCAS update. Pardon me. As you can see, our testing window begins this month with both high school and Central Elementary School administering the ELA assessment. The MCAS window runs through early June with the completion of our science testing in grade 9. Please make sure to review this calendar and building-based notices for specific grade level and content assessments being administered. Cognitor provides the online platform and support for MCAS, facilitating the administration and management of these statewide assessments. Essentially, Cognitor's platform is where much of the computer-based MCAS testing is conducted and where school officials manage the testing process. The previous platform used for the MCAS assessment was Pearson Next. The science retake this fall went well with respect to the new administration and ease of use for our students and administrators. There were no technical issues that occur, and we hope that this is an indication of our upcoming testing at the end of this month. The second correspondence is our annual state report card for each district and school within the district. This information can be found on the district website as well. The report card includes multiple measures of a district and school's performance beyond just MCAS scores. We encourage families to explore these report cards and the information provided to help you understand the valuable information shared each year. I also have some additional updates from DESE. DESE has a public comment available currently. On Tuesday, February 25th, the Board of Education voted to solicit public comment on the regulations on MCAS and the standards for competency determination as presented to the Commissioner. Public comment deadline is April 4th at 5 p.m. with an anticipated board vote on May 20th, 2025. There are links on the public comment page if anyone is interested in providing comments on the proposed amendments. NAEP testing. The State Education Department received a message from the U.S. Department of Education on February 19th, canceling a planned administration of the assessment to our 17-year-old students scheduled for between March 17th and May 23rd. The high school has been slated for testing this year, which has now been canceled. Upcoming grades 1 through 4 have their trimester 2 report card coming out on Wednesday, March 26th. Report cards and special education progress reports will be issued and available on Aspen on that date. An update, recently the Americans with Disabilities Act required that school districts be accessible to people with disabilities. This includes websites, mobile apps, and online learning materials. The district recently implemented a widget which says accountability access on our website that provides accommodations for those that need it. The widget floats now on the right side of every page, and when clicked, it has buttons for larger text, contrast changes, supports for dyslexia, so we are now in ADA compliant with that regulation. And when you do get to the consent agenda, you will have to approve a vote of the donations. You'll find that there are 3 donations for the Tewksbury Memorial High School robotics team in the amount of $5,750. $2,750 is a grant received from the Gene Haas Foundation to sponsor participation in the first competitions. The second donation is for $2,500 from DEI Systems, and finally $500 from the Tewksbury Federal Credit Union in the amount of $500. The acceptance of these donations will require a vote of the committee. And that is all I have tonight.
Thank you. Questions, comments, Mr.
I had one, the school report card letter, and how is that going out, or how did that go out?
It'll go in the district newsletter.
Okay,
Yeah,
because
I
there's
think
clickable links and things.
we put a link in last newsletter, but we hadn't, it was after the meeting, so this really informs people as well. We'll as well put the link to the public comment. If anybody's looking to comment publicly on competency determination, they can just hit the link from our district newsletter.
And then just one question. So just on the grants, so are these grants that are being received from students going out and soliciting donations for their program? Or are these maybe from the advisor or just out of the goodness of these companies' hearts?
Generally, the grants we receive, especially for our robotics, the teams, are out of the goodness of people's hearts because they understand the level of funding that these kiddos have to, do, fundraising to build a robot or to be part of something. So it's typical that you'll see one from me in a minute in New Business on the Corning Foundation. That's out of the goodness of their heart every year. They reach out to our STEM director or school.
Great, thank you.
Just one, the civics, 8th grade civics, MCAS is the day after Memorial Day. I noticed that a few people had mentioned that they're going away, so maybe just a reminder in the WIN letter, maybe sooner rather than the week before that one is the day after Memorial Day.
Mrs. Anderson?
Just a quick question, and maybe I just didn't notice it in the years before, but what is the next gen part of the next generation MCAS? Is it the system that they're using?
It's just that moving away from that paper base through Pearson Next and now to Cognia.
Okay.
So it's our next generation of testing platforms.
Okay, that's what I figured. Okay.
And that's why I
thank
talked about Cognia and moving away from Pearson Next.
you. Yeah, okay. Thank you, that was it.
My only question, that testing that they have for 17-year-olds, was that a postponement or just canceled?
That was canceled.
All NAEP testing at this point, that's generally where we shine, right? Massachusetts generally comes out on the nation's report card number 1 or 2. We do very well. So all NAEP testing is canceled at this time, but we only had scheduled for our high school students. So
It's grades 4, 8, and high school.
yeah. We typically get, tapped on the shoulder for all 3 grades, just not every year.
So as all states have their own individual testing, that was one way that you can compare state to state.
Okay.
So apples to apples.
Great. Yeah, I'm excited about the robotics donations. I think I've been following along on social media with some of their progress. It looks like they're really building a kind of a cool robot this year as an elevator, and I'm excited to see how they do. So yeah, I have no further questions. Mr. Libby.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick couple of updates. I've submitted a capital improvement project request to the town manager for upgrade to our firewalls and wireless access points for the May town meeting at $123,000 approximately to fund this project that we would complete through the E-rate program. Works out to, I was just looking through some emails, that cost of the project without the E-rate funding would be approximately $210,000. So it works out to about a 60-40 split between the school and the E-rate, with us paying the 60% in E-rate, covering 40% of the cost. Some of the projects get funded at different levels, just the way the E-rate program works. So the firewalls, I think, 50%. The firewalls are 70% funded and then 50% match from the program. I don't know how they figure that out, but the access points are 100% funded and 50% reimbursed. So anyway, the whole project would have been 210. It'll cost 123 if we fund it through this E-rate program. So that will be on the agenda at the May town meeting. Just wanted to let the committee know that that was in the works. And one other item, just a preview of coming up at the April meeting. We're going to do a study of our fee rates across the district, club fees, athletic fees, parking fees. We'll do surveys of surrounding towns, see where we stand, and how our fees align with the other towns, and make a recommendation on what we should be doing with our fees in light of the changes with Appendix B, and what we're seeing through the first couple months of that implementation, where we want to go with our club fees, athletic fees, and fees that are related to some of those changes with Appendix B. And that's all I had.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments?
Just one, quickly. The phones at the center school, are they still down?
My apologies, I did mean to update. They are still down.
Yeah.
We're hopeful for the morning. Did we get any further update on the cause?
It is unknown. They are very frustrated. The vendor that installed the system is not. They've offered a couple of suggestions on things to try. Our folks have tried those. We talked to the manufacturer. We've tried those. We're reaching out now to other service providers, try to get somebody in from the outside to help us out. But from what our people are saying, phone systems are generally pretty simple. There used to be, they didn't work, unplug and plug them back in, and they'd reboot and start back up. Something's not recognizing a license, I guess.
The phones at the district office are fine? I mean, they're...
No.
Nope.
It's that building.
So the whole building?
It's the building.
It's that building only. It's no other. I mean, there was certainly hypotheses with the heavy winds we had, with the the changeover of the time, but it doesn't appear that that was the cause. But again, so just for anybody who may be watching, we're sending home emails regularly to parents to email the school if you need information from either the principal, secretary, or teacher.
And we're relying just on cell phones for emergency?
Correct. Which are working fine. So I know it's been frustrating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I forgot my question. after
Sorry.
your question. Give me a second, I'll remember it. Mr. Russo.
Just because I won't be here in April, but I still, with regards to this fee analysis, I guess two things. One, parking we've talked a lot about, so I'm going to put that aside for right now. You guys know my feelings about that. But two, I think, we have caps, right? Do away with the caps. That's my recommendation. And then the other piece with the bus piece, because I think a lot of towns around us do charge a fee to bus or to ride the bus. However, we have taken the position that we are going to consider everyone as a student that's going to ride the bus, when we know that we only have 1,000 students roughly that don't take the bus for whatever reason. Maybe they have a license and they drive, or maybe their parent just wants to drive them because they're a helicopter parent. I don't know. But at the end of the day, we are still paying for that student to ride the bus when they're not. So how can we be creative with opt-out fees so that to not provide more congestion of traffic in already congested areas? Because if we decide to if the committee decides to charge a bus fee we're just going to see more parents drive their kids, which is going to just leave more congestion in an already congested area. My take, you guys will have to decide that at some point.
Yeah, thanks. I remembered my question from Mr. Russo's question. Can we just get whatever you're going to present to us, can we get that as much in advance as we can, as soon as it's ready, so that we can have time to review, please?
I think also, if I may, Madam Chair, through you, a presentation will be made.
Yep.
I don't think you're going to have to make a vote that night.
That's what I was
think you
gonna
can
ask,
take
yeah.
some time, deliberate on it publicly, and determine. Right now, it's information.
Yeah.
You know, we do have a nice lengthy runway through the rest of this school year if you want to make a determination moving forward.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be something we need to take some time to consider, because I think, I have some thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Any comments?
What is the firewall implementation date for the improvement that's going to be made with that? Is that for a 2025, 26 school year?
It kind of depends on how soon we can move forward with contracts, as soon as July 1st.
Okay.
If we get the funding at the town meeting.
Okay.
And then it will be dependent on if we can get the materials in line, if the contractor we can work out a time that they can get into the buildings. There'll be, I think Jason said like maybe a day of downtime for a building to get that replaced, so that they'd want to do it over the summer, ideally. But it kind of depends on how soon they can get the materials.
And we'll be scheduling surgically with our summer school programs, because we don't want to knock any of them offline. I mean, just for the simple things like, Alpha Best will require Wi-Fi and the special ed summer school. So we just had that discussion right now, but we won't know the precise schedule from the approved vendor until we get closer.
Has there been any talk or discussion with town technology folks about any type of overlap in the town, like the admin offices at Town Hall, what they use to protect theirs, what the police department's using, what the fire department's using to, if there's duplicative cost here that we're seeing, if there's one vendor that the town could use, if there's any cost-saving opportunity there. Obviously, you don't have to answer this question right now.
No, but I'm writing it down.
But I'm just curious, everybody has internet access, the town hall has internet access, police department, fire department, DPW, everybody must have some form of firewall protection on there. Whatever, I don't know the technical terms of all of that, but I'm just wondering if there's contracts out there that are, overlapping that could be utilized better. So not a fix tomorrow project, but maybe at some point when they could, if that's,
Yeah, I know.
future-related question.
I'm trying to think back to, I know we have broached the subject, and the police security needs are a lot different than the school security needs. We might be able to do something on with some of the departments, DPW or libraries or things like that. But I think public safety has their own different parameters, and they need to kind of be their own thing. If I remember this, when we
did have that issue with a different, for a different reason, but who
Out of
knows?
curiosity.
It's certainly worth asking the question.
Yeah, if a vendor has a tiered service that
Sure,
they're
or just
offering,
buy
they
in
have-
bulk.
Right, well, exactly, but if the town is looking at ways to improve overall digital security, I know
Yeah.
that's been on the agenda for the select board before.
Yeah, the select board just did had a whole overhaul of
Right.
their security in the past.
So, just
Mr. Libby, what is the total amount that the warrant article will be for, and how much are you expecting the rebate will be for?
The warrant articles for 123,000, I think it's 123,177 or something like that.
Okay.
A little over 123,000.
And then you're expecting 40% rebate?
No, that's our share. That's our piece of the pie.
Yeah, it was like 200.
210 is the total.
No, the whole project would have been 210,000 without the E-rate piece.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you. Then for correspondence and informational topics, I think we've covered the MCAS report card pretty well. The Ginsburg Awards, those are covered well. Any questions on the correspondence? Those are okay for everybody? And consent agenda? Any additional items that wanted to be addressed, or we're good?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in our packet this evening.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Russo, a second by Mrs. B. Joni Smith. Given that the grants were included in that, I'm going to take that as a roll call. How do you vote, Mrs. B. Joni Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson? Aye. And Mr. Mercado?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well for a unanimous vote, and that includes the grants within the consent agenda. School committee member reports. We'll start with CPAC.
So last business meeting, we had some discussions around, they're looking to update their bylaws. So they're looking to put together a subcommittee to look at their bylaws and kind of simplify them and streamline them. It's been a while since they did that. Their next meeting is on the 20th, Thursday, March 20th, which is a busy day in this town, apparently. It's actually their basic rights workshop. They're focusing on transition planning for 14 to 22-year-olds this year. It does require registration in advance, so that is available. And all special ed families received an email to possibly sign up if they're interested. Additionally, we met on February 13th with leadership, the CPAC leadership as well as admin, to review the audit findings and discuss the next steps. Everything went pretty well.
Yeah.
Anything that I missed?
No, I would just say for anybody in the community that has a child on a IEP, I think the CPAC Facebook page is just a wealth of information. They always post about different activities in their community. So I would say if there's anybody that could use that as a resource, it's, their Facebook page has a ton of information on it.
Great. And wellness?
Yeah, we had a meeting, it was like right after our last regular meeting here, working towards a wellness fair, like a community wellness fair. I think they're shooting, at this point, we're shooting for the 2026. It's far out. I'm not sure on a date. I know they were going to ask the superintendent about it.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, I don't know if there was going to be a date yet picked. It was March.
off the top of my head, but.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was really just working towards that. I mean, so there's enthusiasm around that. It's just, trying to put all the pieces together, everyone doing their part, and trying to make it happen.
I think they've done one in the past. It was great.
Yeah.
If I remember it right. Okay. And policy subcommittee, I don't know if we have any updates this week.
No, I mean, I don't like how this is the other way around. It should be the other way around, so we can go right into the policies.
I know. I just separated out of my list because it's a lot today.
We have a lot of policies to go over.
And then if you want to talk about the facility.
Yeah, I mean, just a quick update for my colleagues here. So we have a meeting tomorrow night. We believe that we can get by with just 2 more meetings. One to, as a committee, vote on what we want the assessment, which is ultimately going to be recommended for approval at town meeting, because it requires some funding. What we want that assessment to focus on in terms of options for our town. I think it was like 12 that we talked about fairly at length, pros and cons to each. And then once the committee approves that, essentially tomorrow night, the last meeting or the next one will simply be to review a draft of what will go in front of the select board, because ultimately that committee was formed from the select board. So ultimately, our recommendation should really go before them. And then my hope is that the committee will sort of pause and then pick back up again once we have an assessment that ultimately, hopefully, residents will vote for at town meeting. So that's my update.
No, but I did just find the date for the Wellness Fair, projected again on my anniversary, March 11th, 2026, with the snow date of March 12th, so that's a date night.
Oh, boy.
So busy right now.
Did you say snow date was what?
March 12th.
Yes, this is for next year. That's the date being planned.
March
to stay.
11th, and then snow date March 12th?
Yes, to stay away from spring tryout week, I think, when the spring sports start.
Yeah.
Well, the streets will be plowed and cleared the next day,
Sure.
wouldn't they?
Number policy?
Yeah, so I think, one thing, can I just add one
Yeah,
thing to the
please, of course.
facilities study
Yeah.
committee? So I think if the committee is interested, once we have a date, when the facilities study committee brings their recommendation to the select board, we can share that date with you, if you're interested in attending that.
Yeah.
Yep.
That select board meeting, because it does, affect all of the school committee at some point, because that ultimately will be a recommendation that goes to the select board, but it really is also a recommendation that at some point will come to the school committee as well.
What was the possible presentation for next week then? What was that going to be?
That is, that March 19th meeting.
Or the 20, whatever they.
The 12th is, tomorrow is the vote of the options for the assessment. The 19th, which is the follow-up meeting for the facility committee, that is to review the draft recommendation / presentation for the select board, which will happen, right now we're targeting the 25th, but there may be some conflicts.
That's what I was referring to. So that date was going to be the president. Okay, so that date's tentative.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just the presentation to start the process of hiring somebody for a review, right?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's going to be one of the items that comes out of this committee as a recommendation. But ultimately, the residents need to vote on that at town meeting in May.
Yeah, can I
Yeah,
interject?
please.
Obviously, the committee will set a list of preferred options, just let's say that, to be assessed through a building and assessment or study. It's not a feasibility study full-blown, because that's part of a building process, but it will be to assess the facilities based on those preferred options. It may come out that the assessment comes up with even other opportunities, because, as a committee, we don't necessarily think of everything, but that's how I've experienced the process before.
Okay.
So once that date is hashed out, I'll share that with Bruce can share that with the committee,
Yeah.
so that we can all be aware, so if any of us want to attend. Okay, policy, we've got quite a few here to
Yeah.
just kind of cover.
Yep. So I'll maybe just start with the recommendations. These are just simply informational readings. These are policies that there is some revision to, so these will come up in the next several school committee meetings. So they are policies AC, non-discrimination policy, including harassment and retaliation, ACA, no discrimination on the basis of sex, ACAB, sexual harassment, ADDA, background checks, EFC, universal free school meals, EFD, school nutrition program charge policy, JF, school admissions, JLCB, immunization of students, JLCD, administering medicines to students, JLCDR, regulations for medication administration in the Tewksbury Public Schools, JLCDA, delegation of prescription medications for field trips in short-term special school events.
So
Alphabet soup.
These, anything that was medically related,
Yeah.
were all vetted through the health office and through the lead nurse. And then, of course, if anything needed to go through the district physician, she would vet that. The superintendent also went through this. They went through, anything that needed to go through legal, went through legal. And then references with any of the current updates with changes in
Yep, Department of Health.
Department of Health, Toronto Public Health. Anything else you wanted to add, Mrs. Terry?
No, just thank you to Kelly Constantino for assisting us with
Yeah, of
with these
course.
policies.
Absolutely. Sexual harassment, all these sexual harassment.
And Karen Baker
Yep,
O'Brien,
Karen
that's
Baker
right.
O'Brien. And then also the school free meals, those all were vetted through Deb Mugford and her department, and then also through, she looked through some of the DESI policies and confirmed all those. And then the food nutrition. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think that was perfect. Yep.
Any questions or comments on this group of them? Okay. So we'll move on from
Okay.
those. Yep.
So this is just one policy on regarding first reading. And again, we'll come back next meeting. But JLCA is on the physical examinations of students.
Any questions, comments on that one? Second reading. Right.
So these are sort of final readings for these policies. So this will require a vote, Madam Chair. JICC, student conduct on school buses, and then, which is also in a second place in the policy handbook, EEAEC, which is also student conduct on school buses. And those policies are essentially one and the same, just in two different places because of the, it pertains to students. And section E, drawing a blank of what that section relates to, but J is the student section.
E is support services.
Thank you.
So, yeah, any discussion on either of those? And we could take those as separate votes or votes together.
I'll make a motion to approve the slate. I don't know, I should have read it as that, I apologize. For JICC and EEAEC, both student conduct on school buses.
A second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's to approve JICC and EEAEC. And Ms. Johnson, that was a motion by Mr. Russo and a second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith.
And then next up is a first and final reading, because we're not recommending any changes to these policies at this time, but ADDA/R, which is the DCJS model Corey policy, and then IJOC, which relates to school volunteers, bless you. So I will make a motion to approve both of these policies, adopting no changes at this time for ADDAR and IJOC.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that vote is unanimous.
And then the last section is policies that we are looking for the committee as a whole to rescind, and it's simply because these are covered in other policies that you're already hearing about this evening. And the first is JLCDA, which is the exhibit. That is now covered under JLCDA up above. So we are looking to rescind this, the delegation of prescription medications for field trips and/or short-term special school events. And then IJOCA, Corey Check volunteers, which again is covered under the school volunteer policy as well as the Corey background check policy. So I would make a motion this evening to rescind policies JLCDA exhibits and IJOCA.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith.
Can I just ask a quick question? So IJOCA is a little bit more detail about the Corey process. And IJOC just says everybody needs to undergo a Corey background check, where IJOCA is saying we need to maintain files of volunteers. They should be checked on file. Is that covered somewhere else, or do we think that it's covered enough with that one sentence?
It's covered under, so this was on specifically on Corey checks for volunteers.
It's covered.
Background check piece on ADDA.
Right, so IJOCA, Corey checks volunteers, was just basically Corey checks for volunteers.
Yeah.
But if you read IJOC, go back to IJOC,
Is shorter, to Ms. Anderson's point.
Yeah.
right, it does in there say, I just want to go back to it myself, first and final.
It just says that, yeah, they must undergo a Corey background check, but, so everything that we need for the Corey part is in this ADDA?
It indicates that, IJOC, it indicates that the volunteer
Yeah,
is
it-
required to have a Corey background check prior to volunteering in the school.
And then it cross-references ADDA.
Which is,
And we have to follow the mass regulations on storage.
Yeah, yeah.
And how, so it's,
It's all covered
Yep.
somewhere else? Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So having the two didn't really make sense.
right, okay.
And the second one was really a,
Okay,
and
thank you.
actually, when we went to, I know, I just want to make sure we clear it like, through all the, when we went to MASC, wasn't it that MASC did not have IJOCA? Was that also?
Oh,
I believe that was the one. There was so many we were looking at that day. I think that's right, actually, though, Bridge.
okay.
Just want to be sure I'm not misspeaking.
are you looking that up?
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
Gail?
IJOCA, when we decided to rescind that one,
It wasn't covered in MASC. I think they dropped it. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, MASC had dropped it, if I remember correctly. This was the one.
and then the other one was an exhibit. Did you want to do, is that one okay?
Well, so, right, just for a point of clarification, so there was a motion made by me and...
We have a motion and a second on the table. Any further discussion? No? Are you all set?
Yes.
Okay, you're good? Okay. All right. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I say aye as well, so, and those are both rescinded. Okay. And then for old business, we have the superintendent's timeline evaluation.
Madam Chair, I reviewed it. I think that that timeline works fine if that,
That works for you?
yes, it does.
Timeline work for everybody else? Except for Rich. So the 23rd to the 1st, looking at evaluation, and then on the 9th, we would submit evaluations, and then on the 23rd, around there, that would be our July 23rd meeting, correct?
Yeah.
Right, so that's just more informational. And then, moving on to new business, proposal to, we already did that one.
Yeah, we have,
A, we moved out.
I think we have two more quick items, as you've already approved the preschool hours and fee update, as well as Ms. Tharrett's appointment. The next item in front of you in new business is our uniform employment terms for the TPS non-union employees. Madam Chair, I recommend that you accept the newly updated agreement where we have reviewed with you pertaining to the Tewksbury Public Schools non-union employees. This is a group of about 26 employees from central office, our tech department, our occupational therapists and physical therapists, some of our BCBAs, and our security monitors. We've updated the benefits in this agreement to be consistent with our other bargaining units, and are looking for your vote to move it so that we may implement it.
Okay. And we've had a chance to review that. Any questions or comments?
No. I'll make a motion to approve the uniform employment terms for the Tewksbury Public Schools non-union employees.
Second.
This will be a roll call vote. Mr. Moncada, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Anderson? Aye. Ms. Russo?
Aye.
Ms. Jones?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so it's a unanimous vote, and thank you for your work on that contract. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Libby, as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the next item on your new business agenda is to hopefully approve an out-of-state field trip. And this request you've seen this before. This is an out-of-state field trip request for the Tewksbury Memorial High School students, about 24 students, to visit the Corning manufacturing plant in Kennebunk, Maine, to learn how life sciences work in manufacturing. The Corning Foundation is a wonderful partner to our school district and has donated thousands of dollars to strengthen our STEM programming. You may even remember that the Corning Foundation was a proud recipient of the Ginsberg Family Award last spring. In fact, this field trip is totally sponsored by Corning. There's no cost to our students. We truly appreciate their support in bringing real-life STEM career experiences to our students. The field trip coordinators, Stacy Mulholland, Mary Jo Kelleher, and Eric Bland have supplied you with all the necessary details. Again, even though this is only a one-day trip during the school day, because it's out of state, it does require your vote. Or approval, I should say.
Any questions or comments on the trip?
Nope. I'll make a motion to approve, I know, it's excellent. I will make a motion to approve the out-of-state field trip request from TMHS to the Corning manufacturing plant as presented this evening.
And a second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Moncada, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mrs. Anderson? Aye. Mr. Russo?
Aye.
Mrs. Beery-Smith?
Aye.
I vote aye as well. That's a unanimous vote.
Thank you.
And outstanding to get a vote for it. I mean, It's 24 students. That's fantastic.
It's really, yeah, wonderful
Great trip.
time for them.
Okay, and that brings us to new school committee matters of interest. I think I'd like to start with, this is Mr. Russo's last school committee meeting with us. Is there anything that anybody would like to say? Mr. Russo, do you have some words? Anything you'd like to say?
I have a couple words. I don't want to take up too much time here, but I can't believe this is my last meeting. So I just honestly, I want to just take a moment to sort of extend my deep appreciation to all of you. It really has been an honor to serve in some of the things that we have done, all the way up until this evening. I think that presentation was fantastic. We've had many fantastic presentations over my 3 years here. But I think, honestly, the thing that I take away the most here is the passion, the commitment, and the dedication from all of you. I think this district is going in the right direction, led by your leadership, which I can't say enough good things about. We'll always have the haters. We'll always have people that, will look maybe towards the negative, but I do believe wholeheartedly that this district is moving in the right direction, and that starts here in this room. And I honestly just think, and I did kind of, had a couple thoughts here. I wrote down beyond the policies, the budgets, and the initiatives. Really what stands out most of my time on this committee are the relationships that I've built. Many of you are more than just my colleagues, you are my friends. And while I do hope to be elected to the select board by our residents, all of you will still have my support in the roles and the things that you do here. So I look forward to continued collaboration and partnership. I think this town is strong. I think the work that we do in the schools is very strong, and I'm excited about what the future holds. So thank you. Thank you to the residents for giving me the opportunity to serve. And thank you to you for being good partners, good stewards, good collaborators, and thank you for your leadership. That's all. Enough said.
Yeah, I actually do. I am sad to see you go. I think we started at a really tough time where there was a lot going on. I think we jumped right in with a very busy schedule right off the bat.
We did.
I immediately had to take vacation from work, and it was nice to have someone to go through that new experience with who was learning as we went too. I know that we each had different experiences before coming here, and it was nice to go through that with someone, and I appreciate that it was you. Good luck. I think that you'll do great things for this town. I think you have heart and passion for all of the things you do. Anyone who watches these meetings can see that, so best of luck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I do have something to say, and I don't want to forget a word, Rich. It's really hard to believe this is your last meeting. It really, it does feel like more than 3 years. I mean, I can't even, I remember, I think I get a little PTSD when I do remember what it was like when you joined, but you served on the committee for 3 years, and people cannot truly understand, other than the 5 of you, maybe even us a little bit, just how very hard the voluntary role you serve is. You've dedicated countless hours on behalf of our students, on behalf of our families, on behalf of our staff, supporting our administrators, our clubs, our teams, and the list goes on. I believe in your short time, you've served on at least 6 negotiating teams, my hiring team, several subcommittee meetings, several subcommittees, most recently chairing our school facilities study committee. Just to name some of them, you've always dedicated yourself to promoting new and high-quality programs for our students. I mean, you shared that tonight. And all while you were also living a very busy life of a full-time CEO, husband, and high school parent to 3 children of your own, which has a busy schedule all in and of itself. But more than all you've done, Rich, I'm always appreciative, and I've said this out loud to anyone that'll listen to me, and just so impressed at the eloquent way you carry yourself, especially when there's times where we've had multiple perspectives at the table and differences of opinion, and you always approach those situations as a calm listener and a respectful collaborator, and that respectful manner and humility that you've led with has been most appreciated, Rich. So it's been my joy to work with you, to laugh with you, to focus on our schools and our students together. I do wish you the best as you seek to put your leadership skills to work for the greater community of Tewksbury. So thank you for the past 3 very busy years. I hope to still see you sitting at a table supporting us and supporting all of us in the town.
This isn't the last school committee meeting I'll go to, I promise.
Thank you.
I might not stay for the whole 3 hours, but it won't be the last one you'll see me at.
Great.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a couple words or no? You good?
I have a couple. I appreciate you, Rich, and everything that you've helped me with coming into this role. I think that although we may not have always agreed on a lot of things, the most apparent thing to me was always that you're looking out for the well-being of our students and our community. And I think that with that as your foundation and taking that into other roles in the community, you're going to do amazing things for us and for our families and for the rest of the community. So
thank you.
I'm excited to watch you.
I'll just add, appreciate the gentle nudge. You kind of said, why don't you put your name in for school committee instead of select board, a year ago.
No regrets.
You're better off on this committee than that one.
No regrets.
Yeah, no, so appreciate with that. It's a short time together, obviously, so appreciate your working with you, and good luck, obviously, with whatever happens in April.
Thank you.
Well, Rich, I have a couple of words I did write. I said you've been a strong member of our team on this committee. You've been dedicated. You've been invaluable in many ways. You've offered thoughtful insights, unwavering commitment. You always had passion for the success and the achievement of students, and that's always been at the heart of what you do. You have a strong sense of community, and you lead in that way by example. I truly appreciate all the time and the effort that you've given, and while we'll miss your contributions, we know that you'll continue to inspire those around you wherever you go. And we may have different ideas on things, and it's in those differences that our committee finds its true strength. Each discussion has pushed us to think more critically and ultimately made our team more resilient. It's a reminder that our diversity of thought is what drives us forward and helps us grow. You've made an impact here, and your contributions have left an impression. You've supported staff and hires at the district level. You've supported curriculum improvements and adoptions. You've encouraged piloting and auditing that has led to implementation and consideration of more improvements. More importantly, you're an integral member of our collaborative efforts in collective bargaining with 2 of our largest units. I'd like you to be proud of your work on this committee, and you'll be missed. Like, for real. We have something we like to.
I'm going to miss you all, too.
Yeah.
Now we're going to give you a letter of recognition.
And we need to thank, and I hope Wendy's watching and the kids, because we need to
Wendy's
thank
probably
them
listening
as
now.
well.
Oh, she is listening, yes. She always does. Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, my gosh, this is very generous. Thank you. Oh, jeez. All right.
Yeah. Well, again, for Wendy.
You smell good.
Because we know Wendy has made the biggest
We
sacrifice.
do have a lot of flowers at home. Thank you. Thank you all.
Any other matters of interest?
We had a,
Oh, yes,
what is it, the forum?
a
We had
forum, listening session.
Listening session.
Yes.
We had some residents and parents come, 3.
It was great.
It was great. So we thank them for coming, of course, so I'm sure we will do it again, just don't know when, but
I think the 6 weeks has been good. I think the 4 weeks is too close.
Yeah, it was nice. These were new faces. It was really great to see some brand-new people that I had never met. Some interesting topics that we've already brought up and discussed. But yeah, it was really nice. I think that one of the things that was mentioned also was the time, possibly considering alternative time options, but something to think about for whoever sits on the next one. Yeah, okay. Just to think about.
All right. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe even I was thinking as we get closer with different topics that come up, maybe even combining with administration on something, if, something really topical comes up, like if it's the study committee or people really have a strong interest in something. But it would be a nice mechanism, but we'll see how that evolves. Yeah, the only other thing I had to add was, there's a trivia night Thursday, there's the Center Elementary PAC play, 21st, and 22nd. That's really it.
The Family Feud thing.
Family Feud tomorrow night, class of 2027.
Yep.
Okay, we have a future school committee meeting date, April 16th, April 30th, May 21st, and Tuesday, June 10th. Then we have future subcommittee and advisory committee meeting dates. We have the CPAC business meeting, March 20th.
Madam Chair, that's just that's the basic rights workshop, not a business meeting.
Oh,
That's the only change.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Wellness Advisory Committee, April 9th. Policy Subcommittee is to be determined. We get a lot of policies on the docket. And March 12th is our facility study. And then any future agenda items?
I have just one, and I don't know how far in advance we want to let the groups know, but maybe we could do another PAC roundup. I think we did a roundup of their initiatives and what was purchased and the events that they hosted, making sure that we give them enough time to be able to put that together and come back.
So, we usually give them like a few date options. So maybe, Mrs. Johnson, maybe we could give the PAC like some leeway for some dates, see when they want to come in. That's a good idea.
Don't we do an appreciation day for volunteers? Maybe it's good to do it that same day.
I think I was thinking like so they can present.
Well, they usually have like their own time, but we should figure out how we're going to do
that,
volunteers in general.
Yeah.
All right. And then,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
all right, a motion by Mr. Russo, second by Mrs. Biagioni Smith. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
8:53.